critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Fans Forum. It's Monday night, it's 7 o'clock. Where else would we be? My name's Chris Hall, as I'm sure you all know, and I'm with my very good friend, Pete. Pete, how are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Been a bit busy day, but other than that, all good. All good. Ready to talk some NUFC to bits. Let's get going.
Fantastic. It's always a pleasure talking about Newcastle at the minute, isn't it, Pete? And even though we're talking off the back of a defeat, and it'd be interesting to see what fellow fans think. But I was pleasantly surprised with how well we competed against Liverpool. I know they were missing a few key players, but I thought we'd put up a pretty good fight. My only reservation, Pete, I would say, is I can't remember who said it. It might have been Richie actually on the match reaction on Loaded, and Richie said he wished that we'd given it a bit more of a go. And I can kind of see where he's coming from with that, because I did feel at times we did stand off Liverpool quite a bit, and I would have liked to have seen us really go at them more and really try and, affect them more, if you like, and be a bit more braver. But what were your thoughts on the match? I mean, obviously, we're 1-0 defeat. There's no shame in that to arguably the best team in Europe. But how were you feeling after the game?
I feel okay. Obviously, it's never nice losing.
No.
I tweeted out it was a disappointing result, and it wasn't because of our performance. It was because I don't like to see Newcastle United lose games. It's as simple as that. But there's a few that have said that we should have done more. We should have been more attacking. We should have been this. We should have been that. We didn't give it a go. Well, I don't agree with that, because from what I watched, I think we did give it a go. You look at that first 10 minutes of the game. We pressed them high. We made them.
We did.
We put them under severe pressure, more than I've ever seen us put a Liverpool team or a top team under pressure before at St James's Park or in general. We went at them, and there's a difference between not having a go at a team and having a bit of lack of quality, and that was all the difference was. It wasn't about passion. It wasn't about heart. It wasn't about work rate. It wasn't about endeavour. We had all of that. We had every single ounce of that, and we left everything on the pitch. But unfortunately, and it's just the way of the world at the moment, and the way in which we sit in Premier League football at the moment is that we had a lack of quality, and they had one moment of quality that separated the two teams. Yes, they had 4 or 5 good chances. They didn't score them. They had one moment where that bit of quality made the difference, and that was it. So for me, did we have a go? Yes, I think we did have a go, in my opinion, and I think we were good at times, and we did lack quality in attacking areas. And I think we've all alluded to the fact that that's an area that really needs to be improved on. And even Eddie Howe alluded to that in his interview. So, it's not the end of the world. We've had a few that have come off the back of that result and are now reassessing as a club. Well, we all want to be up there challenging, but we've got to remember, Liverpool are the best team in the world right now.
Yeah, they are.
And some people are disappointed that we didn't go toe to toe with Liverpool, or we didn't, score goals against Liverpool, or we didn't, hammer them or win against them or whatever. But we can be confident as a fan base. But at the same time, they are a fantastic footballing team. They're a fantastic footballing team, and that's just the way it is. And we have to accept that. And they've had how many years under Jurgen Klopp? Is it 5, 6 years?
Yeah, I think so.
Klopp. So they've had 5 or 6 years to develop their team over numerous transfer windows, get players out, get players in, build a philosophy. We're not even a year into that.
No.
So 6 years down the line, from what the owners have said, they want to be winning major trophies. So we're right at the beginning of this process, and I think sometimes we need to remember that and not get too deflated about one result.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment, mate. I mean, my disappointment was probably down to, like you say, the lack of quality, and I think I'd built myself up pre-match because I'd seen, that they left Salah out, they left Fabinho out, they left Thiago out, and I looked at that midfield three of Keita, Henderson, and Milner, and I was thinking we've got a cracking chance today, to really dominate that midfield. But I must say, that's probably the best game I've ever seen Keita play for Liverpool. Like, I thought, especially in the first half, I thought he was outstanding. So I wasn't expecting that kind of performance from him. I've got to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's disappointing because, like you say, we don't like to lose. But you are quite right in what you say. At the very start of the journey, and there's no shame. There's no shame in losing 1-0 to a team like that. And obviously, we saw the difference the subs made when they came on. They started to dominate even more, when they brought on those extra quality of players. And if you compare the substitutions we made with the substitutions that they made, there's such a gulf in class, isn't there? So it's difficult, to compete against sides like that. But we come away off the back of a 1-0 defeat, and obviously we've got City at the weekend, which will bring another challenge, no doubt. And obviously that's away from home, so that's going to be equally as difficult. But who knows, under Eddie Howe and this team and the way we're performing and the character that we show, we could go and really put a performance in there at the Etihad. So it's reason to be confident.
Yeah, definitely. Look, these two games are games where they're almost I don't like to use this term very often, but they're almost free hits. And the reason being is because we're not expected to win against them. I think we maybe built ourselves up as a fan base that we were going to be affecting the title race in some way. And actually, you look at the majority of the teams in this league have not been able to affect the title race because these teams are just too good. Now, the way Man City are playing at the moment, free-flowing, attacking football, they're probably going to create twice as many chances as Liverpool did against us at the Etihad. But yeah, so it's going to be a tough ask. And we're going to have to really, really surprise Man City in order to get anything from them. And I'm just talking, a goal, let alone a win or a point. So it's going to be a tough ask. So, after these two games, what's important is that we don't start judging the players or the manager off the back of these two results, because we're talking about two teams that are just so far and above elite compared to any other. Not just in the Premier League or in England, in Europe at the moment. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair assessment, mate. Very fair assessment. But on that note, I think we've got a couple of people waiting in the green room. So let's start with our first guest for today, and it's a regular face. How you doing, Dan? You okay, mate?
Hello, Chris. Hello, Pete. How are you, boys?
Very good.
I wasn't too disheartened about Salah's performance because Liverpool is a great team. I was just showing you the level we want to be in 6 years' time towards them. Yeah. Just like we had the forwards getting caught offside all the time. But you couldn't blame them. Just Van Dijk, he's strolling the park. He didn't get tested. Van Dijk didn't break a sweat. But people like God complain we didn't tap enough. I thought we've done all right in spells. But I think we've done all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would have been disappointed if we'd have not kept to our fundamentals. If you look at Eddie Howe, we press high, we caused them to kind of to lose the ball high up the pitch. And I'm not talking about Liverpool. I'm talking about many teams. You think about go back to even Everton, Aston Villa, when we've pressed high, we've won the ball high up the pitch. Did it against Brentford as well, and we've caused problems. The goal that Bruno scored against Norwich. If I'd have not seen that. If I'd have seen us do what Everton did at Anfield and retreat to their 18-yard box, I'd have been annoyed by that because we've changed tactic for this team. Eddie Howe's proven that this is the way he wants to play, and this is how he was going to play against any team. And I didn't think we did too bad at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I say, I thought and I lost, Share lost a bit. Like he got injured, that was a big blow when you see Lascelles coming, like your heart guns in your mouth a little bit. You see Lascelles come on. But like I say, but he done all right. But he's done the job. But like it's just Liverpool's they're bringing in Salah on. The subs they had to bring on. We brought Chris Wood on. Massive difference, but. I'm not too disheartened. To be fair, I'm just grateful we got 43 points because like the bottom teams are starting to win, like Leeds, Everton. Everton and Burnley start to win now. They've got 34 points. So that running game with them 3 games at home is a big 3 games for one. So like it's and thank God like we can relax because we know we're safe enough. But against Man City, the same thing. Get outplayed or make. And now we think we're going to get hammered, but can't give them a game. We've got to lose. Just play with pride.
I think it's a really interesting point you make, actually, Davin, and I'm sure Pete will touch on this as well. But I've been really surprised how the bottom of the table battle's going, actually, because all of a sudden Leeds are right in the thick of it, aren't they? And they've kind of, I know they were never safe, but I always kind of counted them myself and kind of thought, oh no, I think they'll be all right. Another win, maybe 4 points, something like that. But all of a sudden, I was checking the odds actually yesterday, and Leeds are now actually the favourite to go down, which is just like unbelievable because Burnley have been on a fantastic run. I mean, you look, what I find scary is you look at Burnley, and since I think it's Mike Johnson, I think that's his name, since he's came in as caretaker manager for Burnley, they've picked up like 10 points out of the last 12, and they're still not safe. And you think, what a fantastic run that is that they've been on. They were 1-0 down against Watford at the weekend, managed to turn it round and get the 3 points, which was so valuable. And then Everton go and beat Chelsea. And, and it's just like, where, nobody, I don't think anybody would have foreseen that, knowing full well that, Chelsea's third place, which everyone just assumed, they were going to get, now looks under threat because you've got Arsenal, Tottenham, but chomping at the bit, trying to, guarantee themselves Europe. And the way Chelsea are playing at the moment, there's no guarantee that, they are going to get that top 4 spot because they're in a horrible run of form at the moment.
Yeah, they're not good. It might be a moving part for me week in, week out, but
yeah,
having watched that game yesterday, the Everton Chelsea game, I actually agree with the odds now, in that I think Leeds could be in serious trouble, and they've actually done all right since the new manager's come in, which would be a shame to see them drop. But Everton are they're getting all the luck. They're getting all the luck. Did Everton play well yesterday? No, I thought they were absolutely shite. But they had that one moment where the ball falls to Richarlison and is able to put it in, and they're able to hold on to that win. And it's pure luck.
Defender made a howler, didn't he? He pissed it.
Aspilicueta's their captain. He's their most influential, their most relied upon, player for the last God knows how many years. And you would never ever put him to make that sort of mistake. No. But that's the kind of luck, unfortunately, for everyone else that Everton are picking up right now. And Everton have had that luck against us. Everton have had that luck against Leicester in the last minute. And Everton have had that luck against Man United with the huge deflection. They've now had that luck against Chelsea. That's 4 games. They've picked up 10 points from those 4 games. And that 10 points is gone a massive way in order to keep them safe. So I think the luck's going to go their way, in my opinion. I think with the home games that they've got, they'll pick up enough points. And I do think that Leeds are in a real difficult situation at the moment.
Leeds be Arsenal next.
Yeah,
and Arsenal's gone for 4th place, so that's a hard game for them.
Definitely. I was looking at the 3 teams. I was looking at Burnley, Everton, and Leeds. And it's funny, each team's got 2 games where you go, nah, they're not going to get anything there. And then each team's got 2 games where you go, they're winnable. So it is. I do actually think, I didn't think this before, but I do actually think it's going to go down to the wire, like maybe the last game, because I can't see it. I can't see any of those 3 putting a run together. Like Everton have got Leicester away. That's their game in hand. I don't see them getting anything from that, and I stand by that. I think Leicester will comfortably beat Everton. But then Everton have got 2 home games against Brentford and Palace, and you just think, could they get something, or will they do an Everton, if you like, and just disappoint and get beat? it's a really funny situation, and Leeds are the same. I think they've got 2 games where you look and go, oh, no, and then they've got 2 games where you think, yeah, they could do something here. So I do think it is going to be extremely tight, and it's really Watford will be kicking themselves, because if they'd have picked up those 3 points against Burnley, that would have given them half a hope. But now, Watford are gone. Norwich, we all knew were gone. But yeah, it certainly looks like it's going to be between Everton, Burnley, and Leeds at the moment. Who would you say, Darren, if you had to pick one?
Leeds. I think they're down. I think Burnley's got enough. I've watched Burnley the last couple of games. I think they've done enough. I think they're kind of going to. Who would they play next? I think they're going to get 6 points over the main last few games they've got. I think Leeds have got the horror running. I think they play Arsenal. The Brentford's a hard game for them. Brighton's a hard game for them as well. And Arsenal, like all that, they've got a hard running. It's. I think Leeds, me personally, but I think Everton's going to survive. Again, very unfortunately, but they've been.
Simon Davies is put on there, and he said that he predicts goal difference. And if you look at Leeds' goal difference, they've conceded so many. They are by far the worst out of the 3.
Yeah, they are.
That could be the kicker for Leeds, because it could get to the point where they're relying on goal difference potentially saving them, and that's another disadvantage for Leeds. They've got tough fixtures, probably the toughest out of all 3 in the games remaining now. But yeah, it's going to be a real difficult one. But the one thing you can say is like Everton have got a lot of luck. Who's to say that the luck doesn't swing the other way? Everton do have 1 or 2 tricky games, and even though they've got Watford and Brentford to play, who's to say that Watford, having been relegated, don't turn up and produce a masterclass against Everton and stop them from winning matches? And Brentford are a decent team. Burnley, I think, will keep plugging out results until the last game of the season, that is. But yeah, I think they'll get enough points to stay in the league. But that goal difference, I think, could be too much. Too much.
I watched your program last Wednesday. You had a question. Would Rafa done the same job as Eddie Howe?
Yeah.
And I've been asking a few of your pals, and all they have said no, he would not have done the same job as Eddie Howe. It's because I think Rafa would have been a lot more defensive, and Eddie Howe, a lot of the players who's playing now would not have been in the team.
Yeah, I asked that question to Mitch when he came on to Loaded. Last Wednesday, and it's an interesting one. It was one that I was thinking about. Obviously, it's not about dwelling on Rafa at all, or comparing the 2 managers in terms of their abilities. It was just, it was just thinking about the situation in which Eddie Howe had to actually come in and make that massive change, and it was more so that question. It almost kind of heaped even more praise on Eddie Howe more than anything. It wasn't really even a question about Rafa. It was, just emphasising how good of a job Eddie Howe's done in the most difficult circumstances. He's been able to come in and do a fantastic job and propel us massively to safety. I mean, even with all those wins and with his losing against Liverpool, I think we're still 10 points clear. It's crazy what he's managed to do.
Yeah, totally. I say, I think Eddie Howe. I was watching it it'd be a lot of. I think it'll be about 5 players, 6 players going definitely in the summer, and I think it'll be 6 players in. That's my personal opinion. Who will be going for?
Ooh, 6 players. What do you think about that, Chris?
I think we do need 6 players, and to be fair, I mean, when we're talking about bringing players in, some of us may be thinking, the likes of Bruno, like your 40 million, but I think there's going to be some players brought in probably for a nominal fee, or even players who get brought in on a free transfer. I think he'll improve the squad where he can, and I think we've said this before, Pete. There'll be plenty of fingers and plenty of pies, and I think we'll be keeping a close eye on a number of players, especially ones whose contracts are coming to an end, because we could even bring players in who are going to do a job for us for 2 or 3 seasons. I don't think we have to go out and spend 40 million on 5 players, and I don't think we will do that. I think we'll have a marquee signing, a big signing, another Bruno type signing. And then the rest, I think, will be, and I don't mean this to sound negative, but I think some of them may be underwhelming, where we go, okay, yeah, they improved the team, but am I excited by them? Not necessarily. Like a Matty Target, for example. I think he will be signed permanently, probably for 15 million. I've heard quotes of 20 million. I don't believe that's the case. Didn't they sign Luca Dean for about 20 million?
Yeah.
Aston Villa. So I can't see them demanding the same fee that they paid for Luca Dean. I just don't see it. So I think it'd be about 15 million. So I think he'll be one of the first people through the door. In fact, this brings me nicely before we move on, Dad, because we'll have to move on to our next guest. But I'm dying to talk about this, and I know it's going to get brought up. But did everyone see the quotes yesterday? I'm sure it was yesterday from Darwin Núñez's agents. I want to say agents. Is it agents?
Yes.
No, it was.
Or was it a journalist?
Gianluca Di Marzio, Italian journalist. Very reputable, by the way. He's held in high regard with regards to Italian transfer. So sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say. So if anyone hasn't seen it, he said something along the lines of, Darwin will be looking to play in the Premier League next season, and he wants to join a club who's got a new project. And he'd be looking to join the Premier League and join a club in the Premier League who's got a new project. So obviously, the majority of Newcastle fans jumped straight on that, thinking, well, what team's got a new project on the go for next season? So it certainly got me excited. But did you boys see that? And how did you read into that, or do you think it's just maybe it's just a journalist, saying something that knows is going to cause a bit of furore?
A bit of both, really, because if the players and the agents go to torment the notified papers, as you know, Newcastle are going to be linked and you're getting linked already. You're reading like online. You're reading he's interested in coming. It's good reading, like say it gets you like butterflies. Like, oh, he's quality player coming to Newcastle. But I think we're going to have it's going to be another like it's going to be like January all over again come June. We're going to be linked with every Tom, Dick and Harry on, which is it's great to see. And after 14 years of being linked with a lone player, we get linked with quality players. So that's, for me personally, it's good to hear that.
Yeah. What about you, Pete? Were you just excited as me, or?
You know what intrigued me was not necessarily the comments, because Darren's right. We do see these comments all the time with regards to certain players. However, the thing that interested me is the fact that it came from Gianluca Di Marzio, and he is, like I said before, he is a very reputable Italian journalist who is normally on the button with a lot of things, transfers. Now, obviously, he isn't kind of going anywhere in Italy, or so we think, but he does have a lot of links with certain deals in Portugal as well. So the fact that he said that just interested me a little bit. Now, it doesn't make it clear that he's coming to Newcastle, but I've got it up here, and it says Darwin Núñez will play in the Premier League. I don't know where, but a club that needs a striker for their new project. Now, obviously, for me, there's only one new project at this moment in time, which is Newcastle United. But does he say or see a new project in Manchester United?
Yes,
and a new mindset. Does he see Arsenal as a new project now that they're playing or likely to play at least European football, but maybe even Champions League? They're the kind of teams that I'd be looking at and thinking, okay, maybe they're the ones that are in the driving seat, because they will at least be able to offer European football. However, the one thing I've maintained, it doesn't mean it's going to come to Newcastle, but the one thing I maintain is that it's all right, these teams coming in late in the day, but actually what goes a long way with certain players, and we'll see what type of mentality Darwin Núñez has, if it is true that he's coming to the Premier League, is that we have scouted him all season. It goes right from before the takeover, even all the way through. Okay, so Steve Nixon's gone and visited Benfica to watch Darwin Núñez on a number of different occasions. Okay, I remember seeing it first documented, I think, way back in, September, and that was before the takeover, that he'd been looking at a player like that. So the fact that we've scouted him and we've shown our interest in him over a long period of time might hold us some weight there in terms of making sure that when it comes to the crunch, that that it shows that we actually want him and we're not just coming in last minute. So I think that may hold a little bit of weight there with regards to that move. But look, the one thing I'll say is that, look, Darwin Núñez is a tremendous talent. My worry has always been the last month or so is that he's been scoring too many goals, particularly in big games like the Champions League, and he's been putting himself right in the shop window. So everyone's talking about Darwin Núñez now, whereas back in December, when we did the full loaded transfer show, we were the only ones that mentioned Darwin Núñez. Myself, Rich, yourself, Mart, Daz, we were talking about Darwin Núñez way back then. Nobody else was talking about him. Now everybody's talking about him. He's a quality player. Yeah. He's a quality player, and he was always going to attract interest at some point. So it's just a case of wait and see. Is he going to be the only striker that we've got in our pool of strikers? No, I think there'll probably be about 20 that we'll be looking at. And don't be surprised with any surprise links and names popping up over the course of the summer. Our pool will be significantly bigger in terms of each position than it was in January. So it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster, that's for sure.
I think we might go back to our Fedge kid who turned it down in January.
Ekitike.
Yeah, I think we might go back. I think that might get resumed in June. My personal opinion.
It's an interesting one because we traditionally play with one striker. So if we went back in for Ekitike now, I think that would be maybe signalling the end of either Wilson or Wood alongside Dwight Gale, in my opinion, if we were going to do that. Because you've effectively got four strikers then. Mm-hmm. And going in with four strikers in a position where you can only really play one, unless he's planning to play two up top, would be an interesting move. Now, Ekitike, he's been injured for a while now, so he's not really played that much at the back end of the season. I'm not sure if we will revisit that deal, in my opinion. I don't know whether that was a now or never type deal. Could be wrong. It could be that other players are available in the summer that weren't in January that we might look elsewhere. But I'm not convinced that we're going to go back in for Ekitike. I think he might well come to the Premier League, but it might be another team that he goes to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, do you think the Haaland deal is going to play a big part this summer? Because I'm assuming Haaland is going to be on the thoughts of Pep and the City officials. But do you think Darwin Núñez, like say if Haaland goes to Real Madrid, for example, will Darwin Núñez then be? Well, he could be, couldn't he? The next target for Man City should Haaland not come to the Premier League. Do you think that could have an impact?
Haaland is going to be like Haaland's going to have a domino effect. Now, for me, the deal for Haaland is done. He's signing for Man City. Like, there's no doubt about it in my mind. I'm already seeing him as a Man City player. I think that deal's done. He goes to Man City. Where the domino effect might kick in is that with Haaland coming, might then allow Gabriel Jesus to move on, and he's been linked with Arsenal potentially quite heavily. If he then goes to Arsenal are not going to then want Núñez, so that may then open it up for Núñez to potentially come to Newcastle. Because if Jesus is their main striker target, they're not going to sign Jesus and Núñez. They'll only sign one. So it might open it up for Núñez to go then elsewhere in the Premier League, if it is the Premier League that he even comes to. Because I know that PSG have looked at Núñez as well. So that's something to keep an eye on. But if Núñez was to then come to Newcastle, that might then open up. Then Ekitike might then go elsewhere, and it might have a bit of that sort of domino effect. So I do think it will happen if Haaland was to change his mind and go to Real Madrid. That would have knock-on effects massively, because you've got the Mbappe situation. That Mbappe looks like nailed on to go to Real Madrid.
Yeah,
Where does he then go? You know, so it kind of throws a bit of a spanner in the works. But I think that's kind of maybe how it will go. That Haaland will go to Man City. Jesus will then be allowed to leave to play regular football and go elsewhere. And then you'll see a number of strikers move down that list. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to have to move on, Darren, but did you have any other points you wanted to make, mate?
I don't know. I think I'll let you go. And I know you're going to be on short. And today, great pleasure to be, as always. So,
Thank you very much for coming on, mate.
Turn on out, mate.
Appreciate it. See you later, mate.
See you later.
Always good to have Davin on. Always makes some fantastic points.
Great points as always. And yeah, like I say, interesting talking points already being raised, you know, whether it's about the relegation battle, whether it's about, you know, Newcastle United and who we're going to sign. Daz thinks that potentially six players coming in the summer. Question for you, Chris. If we are looking at around 6 players, I think you agree with that. I think it might be around 6 as well. You know, what in your opinion do those 6 players consist of in terms of positions? So we're bringing in 6 players. In which positions do you think those 6 players will kind of come from?
Yeah, do you know what? We spoke about this, didn't we, on the squad game? Which is a show that we did on Loaded. To anyone who hasn't watched it, I know we keep plugging it, but honestly, it's a fantastic show. It's called Squad Game, and it's on Loaded HQ, so you'll have to have a watch, where we talk about all the players who are possibly, going to be outgoing this summer. So really, really worth a watch. But yeah, the more I think about it, Pete, and based on what I've been watching over the past few weeks and months, I think me personally, I think Matty Targett will come in as a left back, and I think Jamal Lewis will be his understudy. I think the likes of Richie and Dummett will go on the right. Kevin Trippier is obviously going to be first choice. I don't think we recruit a right back this summer, because I think having Manquillo or Kraft as the understudy to Trippier will be fine. In terms of centre backs, I'd like to see 2 centre backs come in, but I think at least one will, and I think the one who will come in will be a left-sided centre back. I'm hoping it's Sven Botman, but we'll have to wait and see. I do think we'll recruit a left centre back, and it could be that James Tarkowski, for example. I know we've spoken about him endlessly, but he's a free transfer. So someone like him coming in to make the numbers up. Obviously, if we lose the likes of Clark, we lose the likes of Fernandez, Paul Dummett goes, who can play centre back, we can adequately fill those positions. So I think a left-sided centre back, a Tarkowski. I think we'll bring in at least one central midfielder, but I think it'll be a top draw one. I don't think it'll be someone to make up the numbers. I think it'll be a top central midfielder, whether that be defensive or attacking. I'm not so sure. You could argue we've already got 2 adequate defensive midfielders in Shelvey and Bruno, but whether or not we decide to go for a more attacking midfielder, and then that puts up the position. Well, it puts up the threat to Joe Willock's position. You could even question whether Joe Linton, will remain in the 11 for next season. Who knows? I think we bring in a winger who will challenge Miggy if Miggy doesn't go, and Fraser. And I think we bring in. I think we bring in one striker, but if we see 2, as you suggested before, Pete, I think that means Wilson or Wood are going. If we bring in 2, Wilson or Wood will go along with Dwight Gale. I don't think we'll keep Wilson. I don't think we go into next season with potentially 4 or 5 strikers. I just can't see it. Don't forget, I suppose, how classes Maxi now, or can class Maxi now as a striker. So I can't see us having 4 strikers and Maxi. I just don't see it. So yeah, I'm gonna say a left back. Yeah, do you know what? I'll say a left back, 2 centre backs, a midfielder, a winger, and a striker. That's what I think we'll go for. What about yourself?
I think I mean, this is massively dependent on who leaves.
Yeah.
In my opinion, who I would go for if we were to get 6 players in, Goalkeeper.
Oh yeah, I didn't even mention the goalkeeper. Yeah, no, you're quite right. I think a goalie will come in as well.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
a
a good shout.
goalkeeper going because
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
not that I think, I hope we have 3 goalkeepers leave in the summer. I hope we have Darlow go. And look, guys and girls in the chat, put your opinions in if you disagree with this, but this is what it's all about. In my opinion, I think Darlow, Woodman, and Gillespie all need to leave. I think they all need to go. I would bring another goalkeeper in, a goalkeeper that's going to be a number 1. And I would then have, or certainly push Dubravka, and then I would bring. I think it's Dan Langley, who played in some of the pre-season friendlies. I'd bring him into the first team as a third choice goalkeeper. Play him in the under 23, but bring him through as a player through the academy. Ticks one of those boxes as well because he's come through the academy. And I'd bring them in, and I'd revamp the goalkeeper situation. For me, I'd bring 2 centre backs in. And I'll explain why I think 2 centre-backs need to come in. You've mentioned one of them, Tarkowski. I would take him. I'd bring him in on that right-hand side. And I'd have him and Shaw as those fighting out for the 2 right-hand spots in the centre-back position. And then we'd bring in a left-sided centre-back. So 2 centre-backs, 1 left, 1 right, footed. Bring them in the summer. And the reason being is because although we managed to get through the game against Norwich and we weren't really tested, it was obvious how awkward of a pairing Lascelles and Dan Burn are.
Yeah.
And that's not a pairing for me that we should be going through next season. So that was, I'm not saying Lascelles made many mistakes or he played bad or Burn played bad, but Burn had a good game. He played very, very well. But as a partnership, they don't work well. And I wouldn't be confident with those as a partnership going into this game next season. Now, for me, it's not about Lascelles' ability to defend. We need, the way we play football as a team right now, we need players that are comfortable on the ball. And Jamal Lascelles is not. For all his ability in the air, for all his abilities having raw strength and having a little bit of pace, he's not the slowest. He's not good on the ball. And that's why Shaw and Burn link so well together, because they're good ball-playing defenders. Tarkowski is okay. I'm not saying he's amazing, but he's better than Lascelles. So he would come in and be a good alternative. And then we'd look to get another left-sided. Who that is, Botman, Badashili, whoever it is, that's up for discussion. And we'll talk about that a lot in the summer, no doubt. But I think this is the time to get rid of Lascelles. I've said it before on squad games. I think Lascelles will stay for another season. The more I've seen now of him coming back in, I think we may need to look at get rid of him and move him on, get another centre back in. A centre midfielder needs to come in. Who that is, I have no idea. Lucas Paqueta, whoever it is, and I think one more centre midfielder coming in, and we'll talk about Lusher and Longstaff in a second because it's a good question that was starred. An attacking midfielder or winger, however you want to name them up. We need another winger to push either ASM or play on the right hand side. Someone that maybe is versatile that can play on both sides of the wing. I think we need someone up there, and then we need one striker. I'd be happy to go with one main striker, the number 1 striker, Callum Wilson as backup, and then Wood as a third backup. If we're going into the season with those 3 strikers, that is as better striker formation of players that we've had for a long time at this club. And I'd be confident going into that season that the top striker, Wilson as a backup, Wood as an alternative, would see us right. It takes the emphasis off Wilson playing every week, so preserves him in terms of his injuries. Wood is a battering ram, can come on and cause havoc late in games, and we can alternate the way we play. That's just my opinion. I don't know what you think about that.
No, I think it's fair, mate. And as I said before, you could even add a 4th one in that in St. Maximin. We know St. Maximin can play up front. It's not ideal. I do prefer him out on the left, but he's another option, isn't he? And I think this day and age, Pete, the way that we play, unless of course we change the way we play and we change formation, the majority of teams play with one focal point, one main striker up front. I don't think you need 4 strikers anymore. and for us to have 4 main strikers, I think it causes problems within the team because that 4th choice striker isn't going to get a sniff the whole season. So that may not necessarily be the way forward. Right, well, we better move on, Pete, because the guests are racking up in the green room. So we better try and get through them as quickly as we can. So let's go to our second guest, and it's a pleasure to welcome back Jimmy. How you doing, Jimmy?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good, mate. How are you? Lovely
good.
background again.
Do what?
Lovely background.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty nice out here today, so can't complain.
Good
So
man.
casual with it. Love it.
I know.
Yeah, I was really proud of the guys. I mean, I was one of the optimists that thought we could maybe somehow scratch out a win. But I mean, we made things difficult, just as difficult, on them as they did us. Just like you said, that one individual, piece of quality on the goal. But all in all, my only criticism is maybe I'm in the minority for this, but I would have pushed Joe Linton back to the midfield and started Wood, just for the off chance we do get, for corner kicks, set pieces, gives us a little more height in the box, because ASM, didn't do anything that, and I mean, it's like he put his head down, and it's like he basically just run into a cul-de-sac every time. And I thought this could be the game where I would have liked to see a little more of the old ASM.
Yeah.
Once he gets that ball and turns the corner, take on Van Dijk one-on-one. And I mean, right there, I mean, maybe you get a foul, maybe you lose the ball, but at least you're, playing aggressively. I think that was the game where he could have drew a few fouls had he just been a little more aggressive. And I'm a big fan of ASM, but it just seems to me that he's having a hard time defining his role in this team. Everyone else has lifted their game, and his has gone stagnant. I mean, it's kind of like you said, the square peg in the round hole.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, I mean, he doesn't. Well, I guess for him, you had Steve Bruce that lets you do whatever you want. Never question. And he liked that. But it's, it's a different manager, and let's face it, 5 goals isn't a lot. On our team, I mean, heck, I can go to Everton, I can get more output out of Damari Gray the way this season's gone.
What do you think the reason for that is, Jimmy? Because obviously, I agree with what you're saying, by the way. I'd say we're seeing a lot of effort from St. Maximin, and we all know on his day he can be absolutely fantastic, and he's a game changer, and he can win a match on his own. But I agree with what you're saying in that he seems to have lost that spark, doesn't he? But what do you think the reason for that is? I know you've alluded to the fact that it could be that Eddie Howe's wanting more from him, wanting him to play his game slightly differently. But do you think it is the role that Eddie Howe's asking him to play, or do you think that he's just a player who's suffering with a bit of confidence at the moment?
I think he's a player that has problems with structure. I mean, we got him, we signed him. He had a reputation of, not exactly being the team player. It's all about me, and and he came in. Steve's, let him. He said, "Here, it just seems like however you want to play." And I just think that he is going to have problems under a manager that wants structure. And I think he does have an overinflated sense of self-worth. He sees himself as Ronaldo and Messi. And, I know the French team's good, but you're not even close to even cracking the practice squad on the French team. So I think it's going to be interesting to see this summer. He has to make a decision. Change your game, or Eddie will make the decision for you.
What do you think on that, Pete? On Jimmy's comments there about ASM?
I think you made some really good points, Jimmy. And I've kind of been waiting for this ASM topic to come up, because there were some mistakes made on Saturday. And there's a few things that Alice at Maximum needs to learn very quickly, in my opinion. Look, I'm one of his biggest fans. People know on this channel, on this show in particular, where people have gone in on ASM and have gone no, but I don't agree, and I've kind of looked to back him, and I will where I think it's where it's justified, but not on Saturday. Not on Saturday for me, and I think he's got a lot of learning to do. Now, one of the really interesting points that Jimmy made about ASM, in particular, is that where you made about kind of Bruce, kind of just to let him get on and do what he wanted to do as a player. Now, he's benefited. Ultimately, the only player that's benefited from a lack of a structure and a lack of tactical nous is ASM. Is because he's just been allowed to do what he wants to do and not be held back. And it's just a case of, if you want to drift to the right, drift to the right. If you want to go down the middle, if you want to go down the left, if you want to just stay up front and not get back, that's up to you. You do what you want. He's almost been given that by Bruce, because Bruce tactically had no idea. He struggled initially with the tactical system that Howe wanted. He's now understanding and settled into that tactical system. But that tactical system that Howe wants, Howe, in my opinion, needs to evolve that tactical system and develop that for ASM. For me personally, ASM should not have played or even started on Saturday. After 5 or 10 minutes, my overriding feeling watching that game was, this isn't working. It's not working. ASM is not working as a frontline striker, because he doesn't play. He cannot give you what Wood gives you, or what other strikers will give you, and that was the ability to press high up the pitch. The Liverpool centre-backs had far too much time and space on the ball to dictate the play. Why? Because they weren't being pressed enough. If you're playing ASM up there, if you're going to play him there, you need to be telling him that he needs to press and not do this fake running where you're looking like you're pressing the ball, but you're really not. Because a lot of players and a lot of strikers do that in football across all levels. You'll get strikers that press the ball, that really want to press the ball, that really want to win the ball and try and nick the ball, or you've got pressers that will run 90% speed until they get near to you, and then they'll stop just to make it look like they're pressing the ball. That's what ASM was doing on Saturday. because there were a couple of times where he got close enough where if he really wanted to, he could put his foot in there and really cause some problems and nick the ball, and he didn't. So it was the pressing to make him look like he was pressing. And I don't like that in strikers. Being a striker myself, I hate that. If you're a presser, you press to win the ball. Chris Wood is a presser. He presses to win the ball. He might not be great in all other areas. And, Trules has just put a comment on there. Wood is useless. He doesn't win aerials. He doesn't hold up the ball. His passes are bad. You might be right. You know what? There are times where all of those things, Trules, you are absolutely right, where those things don't come off. I'll go back to his passing and his hold-up play at Stamford Bridge. Wood was dreadful. The worst player on the pitch for that. But I tell you what, when Wood presses the ball, he presses to win the ball, and he creates problems for the centre-back. And you know what? In that game, in isolation on Saturday, we needed that. And we didn't have it. And it allowed Liverpool to come out far too easily. And that was a big thing for me. And this is where Eddie Howe maybe needs to evolve in his management of ASM, is that if there are going to be games like that coming into next season, in my opinion, ASM shouldn't be playing. And as a manager, Eddie Howe needs to be maybe more astute in his understanding, is to say, right, okay, this might not be the game for ASM. We bring him on later on to see if he can affect the game and bring him on to make an impact rather than starting him. And bring on someone that's tactically and structurally better at holding this team and pushing this team to do that. And it's either or. It's one or the other. It's either ASM learns how to do that side of the game and be better with it, or the other thing is that ASM is then only used in games where that isn't essential. It isn't a necessity. The one other thing about ASM that really frustrates me, and it's frustrated me for a long time, he has moments where he improves it, and then he has lots of other moments where it's the same, and it's his predictability. Every time he gets the ball, he cuts in onto his right-hand side. It drives me mad, because there are so many times where, I'm just going to mute your mic, Jimmy, just because there's some sirens going off that were I couldn't hear properly. But back on again. I've just muted it again. For me, ASM is becoming far too predictable. He's coming in, he's cutting onto his right hand side and losing the ball straight off the bat. He needs to go down the left hand side, or we play him on the right hand side. It's as simple as that. But because if he's playing on the right hand side, he goes direct, he crosses the ball in, he simplifies his game. He is. I just think that predictability is really hampering his game, and it might be down to confidence. He does look like he's lacking confidence at the moment. That might be a reason for that. But for me, we need to make a decision as a club, Eddie Howe as a manager, about ASM. If we're going to play him down that left-hand side, we need to work on him to mix up his game a little bit. Go down the left, cut him with his left foot, and then work the right-hand side and mix it up so it keeps the defenders thinking. Or you just play him down the right-hand side. We know that Ryan Fraser can play on the left, because when ASM was out, Ryan Fraser played well there. Or we use that as an alternative. But for me, there were certain things that came out of that. I just think that there's certain things that we need to do with ASM if we're going to make him a success. Because the way he's playing right now, in all honesty, he won't make it another year at Newcastle United. With a trajectory that we're on as a club, I don't see ASM staying at Newcastle United for another year, because he's not going to be wanting to play on the bench. But I think Howe's going to be forced to put him on the bench, because he's going to be a player that has a negative impact on the team if he doesn't develop his game quickly, or if Howe doesn't find ways to make it work and use him for select games in isolation. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think it's a fair assessment, mate. Yeah. What would you say? What would you say to that, Jimmy?
I don't know. I was just saying I agree. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to him over this next year.
Yeah.
But I thought Miggy had a good game. Thought Dan Burn had a great game.
Mm.
And of course, Dubravka. Probably the best game I've seen him play.
Yeah, he was really good, Dubravka. Really, really good. Just to touch on your point, Pete, as well, when you're talking about pressing and being frustrated that, ASM doesn't appear to give his all when he's pressing. It's a really interesting point because we saw, and we were talking about it earlier, about that Azpilicueta mistake. And the reason that mistake happened was because of the press and because he was forced into the mistake. And you do look back, don't you, and think, considering the pace that Maxi's got and the trickery, and he can get himself about very quick, can't he? You very rarely see him intercepting the ball off anyone, do you? Very, very rarely see it. And players like him should.
Yeah, he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to put his foot in there. He doesn't want to put his foot in there where it hurts and attempt to win the ball. That's the difference with Richarlison. We've all talked about our negativities about Richarlison, his attitude, he falls on the ground a lot. But I tell you what, when you're in the trenches and you want someone that's a battler, I'd take Richarlison. Richarlison will put his heart and soul into that. Yes, we've talked about him wanting out, but I tell you what, unlike Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison has shirked his responsibilities, and he showed that he was Everton's best player and probably one of the best players on the pitch yesterday.
Yeah.
Richarlison was fantastic, and the only disappointing thing is you don't get that consistently from him. But he is a harrier. He makes defenders make mistakes. He's a decent finisher. I just thought he played really, really well, and he was the complete opposite to ASM in that position. And I want to make the point: it's not ASM as an overall player. I'm ultimately talking about ASM on that performance on Saturday, in particular. In that, as a frontline striker, if you're going to play him instead of Wood, you need him to do specific jobs better. That's just my opinion. And yeah, I just think a striker should press and press to win the ball and press hard, and he didn't do it.
No.
Well, he's facing a 3-match ban for throwing the flare into the crowd. Say he was trying to throw it out of the stadium. Sorry, not buying that. We're not that stupid. Come on.
I'm gonna ask you both this question. Do you honestly think that Richarlison's going to get a 3-match ban from that incident? He should, but do you honestly think he's going to?
No.
I could see one at the. If they did anything, it'd be a one match ban, but they've already let him off the hook. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he'll get any kind of ban.
Yeah. And I still say Everton goes down just because their game doesn't travel. They're a completely different team at Goodison and they only have 2 more home matches. And
how many games they got left?
They still have a game
5.
in hand. 5, yeah.
And they've only got 2 home games left.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, they're not good away from home.
In fact, Pete, I loaded this up before, just because I thought we may talk about it later. But that's the. Let me just quickly get that comment off. Yeah, there you go, mate. That's the 5 remaining games left for Everton.
So they've got to go to Leicester, Watford, and
there's the 2 winnable ones in the middle.
Yeah.
So
interesting. And would we say they're bankers? Because I wouldn't. I
wouldn't. No. Ironically, I think the two really winnable ones are probably Watford and Brentford. The Palace one will be difficult, but it's just the fact of at home that could help.
Well, I'm gonna refrain from all Everton comments this week because I'm not on painkillers. So yeah,
brilliant.
Jimmy, we're going to have to move on shortly, mate, but was there any other comments you wanted to make?
No. That's it.
You better go and enjoy that lovely sunshine, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a nice cigar, so I'm good.
Ah,
Ah.
lovely.
Well, you take care, mate. Really good to speak to you. Some good points as well, as always. And I'm sure we'll be chatting again very soon.
Okay. Take it easy, guys.
Take care, Jimmy. All the best, mate.
Take care.
All right.
Love having Jimmy on. I'm always dead jealous when I see his background, though.
Oh, it's always a different background as well. It always kind of keeps us guessing, and those in the chat never know where he's going to pop up from. Which keeps it very, very interesting. That's for sure. But yeah,
Pete, it's that time, mate. It's that time.
Deep breath time.
Yeah. Need to get through. I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible because I am conscious of time and I want to get to the final two guests and obviously have some time for questions as well. So I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as I possibly can.
Go for it, fella.
Okay, so big shout out to Spider Miner, the worldwide coverage. The lads have been with us for a long time now, and they're the people to trust when you need some internet security. You go to Google, and when you search for them, they will come up at the top of the internet search bar. Thank you, lads, for your continued support. We also have skipsandbins.com, telephone number 0800 25 45 25 free, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website address is www.skipsandbins.com, easy, contract free, and pay as you go waste collection. Big shout out also to L&G Family Funeral Directors. They can be contacted on 0191 389 7245. We also have the Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp, and cannabinoid specialists. Website address is www.thegohd.com. Also, big shout out to our good friend John Justice Allen at qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and also the runners of our website, www.nufcmatters.co.uk. Big shout out as well to ClickEye. Meet the new game over screen. Drop into a Clee Run device near you. They can be found on the Google Play Store and Apple Store, and it's clearun.game. As always, big shout out to Media Arts for all the flyers and posters that they do for the show. If you haven't subscribed to Newcastle Legends already, why not? Get yourself down into the bottom right-hand corner for the subscribe button. I think Steve's got over 47,000 subscribers now. So if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. Don't forget to like the show. Don't forget to keep those comments coming in because we love them. And make sure that you share it to all your social medias and with your friends and family in case you think anyone else would like to catch up on the show. Our shows can be found on iTunes and Spotify. So if you don't get a chance to watch with us live now, you can watch back or listen back, should I say, on iTunes and Spotify. If you would like to become an NUFC cult member, there is what's the word I'm looking for? You can scan the image on the screen and that will take you directly to nufcmatters.co.uk and you can register for a membership pack. And the membership pack looks a little bit like this. So you get a scarf, you get a couple of mugs, you get a pen, and you get a card. And don't forget as well, if you haven't already, if you subscribe to the show, you can receive a free car window sticker courtesy of NUFC Matters. Don't forget, pre and post match, always get yourself down to the Dog and Parrot. That is a pub located near Newcastle Central Station. Great music, good drinks, and a bit of pool if you fancy that too. Whenever there isn't a match on, don't forget you can still donate to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk for the match day bucket. All donations will be gratefully received. And finally, just to give a little plug to an upcoming show, NUFC Matters presents Mick Lowe's and Andy Griffin. Friday, the 24th of June. The doors open at 7 p.m. Tickets are only £12. However, if you wanted to upgrade for VIP, this will include a meet and greet and photo. And that is at Shearer's Bar, St James's Park, NE1 4ST. And finally, I've got to promote Loads at HQ. That's a show that myself and Pete run, which I'm sure the majority of you will know about. But if you don't, get yourself onto YouTube and type in @Loads at HQ1 or that's on Twitter. But if you just type in Loaded HQ on YouTube, our channel will come up. And if you'd like to hear more from me and Pete, as well as Richie, Daz, and Martin, get yourself on there. Plenty of great shows, and we continue to talk all things Newcastle. And I think that's it. I think that is it. Right, Pete, before we get to our next guest, I just wanted to quickly throw these up because you probably saw, well, you may have noticed, I loaded up some images while we were talking, and this is the league table, Pete. So this is as it stands. So on the number to the right of the badge is how many games that have been played. The number in the middle is the goal difference, and then obviously the number at the very far right is the points. So we can see Watford and Norwich are done, aren't they? They are done. In fact, I think, well, yeah, they're not technically mathematically down, but Watford are down. They'd have to win all their games and everyone else would have to lose. So I think Watford are down. But Everton, Leeds and Burnley, they're the three that were in question from before. And obviously we know Everton have got that game in hand. So what I'll do is we'll talk about Everton first. But these Everton's remaining fixtures, which is what we had up there. Obviously they've got Leicester away, Watford away, followed by Brentford at home, Palace at home, and Arsenal away. I mean, how many points realistically, Pete, can you see them getting from that?
I think it's hard to predict.
Based on that Chelsea result, yeah.
Not just that, with Leicester, with with a number of those kind of freak results. You throw ours in there as well. Man United. It's a strange. They're a strange team because they're not a great team and they don't play well, but they've just been really lucky in moments to get results. Leicester, I don't see them. I see Leicester winning, even though Leicester are focused on the Conference League semi-final. Obviously on Thursday, that'll be their focus. But I do think that Leicester will win that game. Watford, I don't think that's as cut as dry as people think, and the reason being is because I just think that with Watford being guaranteed to go down by that point, I think it'll be a case of that it might open them up and they play a different style of football. So maybe I think a point there. I think against Brentford, I don't think they'll beat Brentford. I think they've got more chance of beating Palace than Brentford. I know Brentford are losing right now to Man United. Hernandez has just scored. But
I put this comment up there, Pete. Do you like that?
Goes without saying. There's only one Bruno. But yeah, I think that Brentford will beat Everton.
Mm-hmm.
I think Palace may be a point, and then I think Arsenal will beat Everton on the last day. So I mean, for me, I'm only seeing 2 points in there. But you could also look at it in that they could beat Watford, and they could maybe beat Palace, and they could potentially get. For me, I think there's a maximum of maybe 6 points that they can get from these remaining games. What about you?
Yeah, no, I'm the same as you. I think the absolute maximum, and this is really, this is Evan on the positive side. I think the maximum they could get is probably 6 points, and that would put them on 38.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they've had it against Leicester. The Watford game, like you, Pete, I think people think, Everton could win that. I do expect Watford to kind of give a bit of a reaction because I think there'll be a lot of disappointment from the fans and also the backroom staff at how in the manner that they lost to Burnley. So I'm expecting a reaction. I think best case scenario for Everton would be a draw to that game, if I'm honest. It wouldn't surprise me if Watford won that. Brentford game, obviously, Brentford might have petered out by then. But I think the Palace game will be difficult too. So I think it would be anywhere between 4 points and 6 points. 6 points would, as I say, put them on 38. 4 points would put them on 36.
Keith Rowe's gone in there. He thinks at least 9.
Ooh.
Wow. Draw against Leicester, 1 point. Watford draw. Wins against Brentford and Palace. Interesting. Maybe a draw against Arsenal as well.
Yeah, who knows?
Very,
But the
very
next one, Pete, to consider. So the next team up. So there's our league table. The next team up to consider is Leeds United. So there's Leeds remaining fixtures.
Ooh.
Nasty games. But again, the last two are probably the ones where they look to get their points, you would think.
Mm. Against Jekyll and Hyde teams as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think Arsenal win at the Emirates.
Yeah, I do.
The one that I'm struggling to predict. Well, I say the one. There's more than one that I struggle to predict. Is Chelsea. You look at Chelsea. You would have thought they'd have wiped the floor with Everton, and look what happened with there. Is that going to be the same with the Leeds? I don't know. I think Lukaku should have started yesterday. I think he would have been a perfect foil. Why? I think he might be out the door in the summer, but that might be why he's not playing. But I'll go with a Chelsea win. Arsenal win, Chelsea win against that. Here's where the Jekyll and Hyde is with Brighton. I did not see Brighton winning against Wolves at the weekend.
3-0
they
as
went
well.
and won 3-0. They are just that team that you think, right, they're going to win today, and they don't. And you think, yeah, they're going to get turned over today, and they end up winning. So I've got no idea of what you'll get from Brighton, but I'm going to go with Leeds get a point in that game.
Yeah.
And then it boils down to them having to try and get something from Brentford. And I think maybe they get a point against Brentford. So I'm only giving Leeds 2 points, which considering where they are with Everton at the moment, if Everton get 6 points, it doesn't quite keep them in the league. And that's why I think it might be quite tight at this moment in time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing, mate. I think the first two games, I struggled to see them getting anything, if I'm honest. Maybe a point against Chelsea, possibly. But Chelsea have really got to up it, haven't they? And, they're still fighting to ensure that they get top four. So I think sooner or later, something will click with Chelsea, and they'll probably give someone a hammering. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was Leeds. Whether Leeds kind of run out of gas a little bit. Like you, I think the Brighton game's really difficult to predict. I could easily see a draw. And for some reason, I don't fancy them at home away to Brentford. I just don't fancy that. I think Brentford, first season in the Premier League, they'll want to go out on a high. Last game of the season at home. I can't see them getting anything from Brentford there, and that could be their fate sealed, couldn't it? So interesting. So again, I'll flash the lead back up, and then the last team we've got, who are also on 34 points, is Burnley. Home and away against Villa, Pete.
Yeah, would not surprise me if they take 4 points from those two Villa games. Beat Villa at Villa are not playing well at the moment. No. And we haven't talked about this enough. I know we've got the. I'll raise the point. I'll go through the who we think will get points where, and then we can come back to it. But I'll raise the point first. There's been a hell of a lot of talk in recent months about this great messiah in Steven Gerrard coming from Rangers to Aston Villa, and how he was a better manager. I think they put it in the Birmingham Mail or whatever it is, about how he was the manager that Newcastle should have gone for and were desperate for and should have got. Look at Eddie Howe now.
Yeah.
Look at Eddie Howe, where he's come from and overtaken comfortably Aston Villa to get to this point right now.
Yeah.
The season's not over, and they still might get more points in Newcastle, but still, from where he came from and the job that he's done, would Steven Gerrard have done that same job? I'll ask that question. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I just think Villa are not playing well right now, and there's a lot of Villa fans that I know and have spoken to that are not convinced by Steven Gerrard at all. At all.
No.
So yeah, that might be one to keep an eye on, because he's gone under the radar. And I think he's gone under the radar because of his reputation, not because that they believe in his managerial ability. But I think Burnley win at Turf Moor. I think Tottenham win. Tottenham are on unbelievable form at the moment and playing some outstanding football. We saw it firsthand, didn't we, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium?
We did.
Against Newcastle. But they are playing really well at the moment. So I only see a Tottenham win. I think they'll get a point at Villa Park. And they're going to fall short, unfortunately, at Turf Moor because Eddie Howe's boys are going to pick all 3 points up. So yeah.
Yeah.
What about
It's
you?
funny. It's funny, isn't it, Pete? Yeah. I mean, I look at that and I think Burnley are going to have enough. I think they'll beat Villa at home.
Yeah.
I think they'll come unstuck against Tottenham, like you say. They could easily get a point at Villa Park. And yeah, I think by that point they'll be on 38 points, and I think that'll be enough for them. I really do. I don't. Yeah, I think we win at Turf Moor. I think we'll go to Burnley, and I think we'll turn them over. But by that point, hopefully, Burnley are safe. And the reason I say hopefully is because I think they'll all be absolutely exhausted, and then it'll just be a case of us turning up and trying to get as high up the league as we can by getting the win. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, like I say, over the past week and a half, 2 weeks, we've been looking and we've been saying Everton in big trouble and Burnley in big trouble, and all of a sudden, maybe it's because Leeds have just not been picking up the points where they should. And then, the likes of Everton, they've got that win against Man United. They got the win against us. They got the win against Chelsea. You think, bloody hell, 9 points. It makes a massive difference, doesn't it, when you count those 3 games?
Yeah,
Really does.
The last second goal against Leicester that got them a point.
The point
at home. That's 10 points. Like without that stroke of luck, and it has been. Well, I've watched all 4 of those games. It's been a stroke of luck. They've been lucky. They haven't played well, but they've managed to get these moments, whether it's late on in the game or at crucial parts in the game, where they've kind of been lucky and they've thrown everything at it. Jordan Pickford, we give him stick, but he produced a masterclass yesterday in order to keep Chelsea out. And I just think that they're benefiting from that. But it is what
the second save, and I don't throw these words out very often, but the second save, I've got to say, it was world class. That second save was world class. What he did after it and the way he celebrated, and he's looking at all different camera angles and stuff, I don't like that, and I think that's why people don't like Jordan Pickford. I'd rather him just concentrate on his game and do it with his own players. But he's looking around, he's pulling tongues, he's winking. Don't want to see all that. But fair play, it was an outstanding second save, and he had no right to make that save. And he's kept Everton in the game. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Anyway, and I do think it will go down to the wire.
Yeah, I do.
Particularly because some of those games we've talked about, they are going to things will crop up, won't they? And results will happen that we don't foresee. Tottenham, again, you talk, Pete, about Tottenham. They are in fantastic form at the moment, but they do remind me a little bit of Brighton in that they are very Jekyll and Hyde. Like, you'll see Tottenham play sometimes and they'll get turned over 1-0 by the likes of Brighton or a Villa or someone like that, and you just think, where's that come from? They're putting in outstanding performances against other teams, and then they all of a sudden they'll turn up on one day and it just doesn't happen for them. So I think there'll be lots of twists and turns, but I don't think we will know for sure who's going down on the last day of the season. I really don't.
Okay, so if it's a shootout, do you think it's going to be a shootout between all 3 clubs, or do you think it's just going to be 2? And if it is 2, which 2 do you think it's going to be a shootout with?
I think it's going to be Leeds and Everton. I think Burnley are going to get themselves out of trouble.
Okay. I agree.
What about you?
Yeah, I think it'll be a shootout between the 2. Leeds and Everton. A shootout between the 2. And I think Everton... I think Leeds might be in the bottom 3 going into the last game of the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. An interesting watch, that's for sure.
Definitely. Right, Pete. Well, we better get our next guest on because time is ticking on. So big welcome as always to Tony. How you doing, Tony?
So, that's not too bad. How are you?
Good, mate. Good.
Very good.
Yeah. Saturday's game. Well, there's no disgrace in getting beat off a team who are in the hunt to get 4 trophies. They've already got 1, of course, so they're on course for another 3. we didn't disgrace ourselves, only to lose 1-0. Obviously, Liverpool didn't have their shooting boots on either. But, still, at the end of the day, this was a game to show how far behind we actually are. And we are way behind Liverpool. But there was positives there, Dubravka had a great game, I thought. Pulled off some great saves in that game to keep the score down as well. Marnie, I think, should have been sent off. Why that didn't go to VAR when he nearly put his boot in Dubravka's face.
Yeah.
I don't think it was
then Mike Dean was on there, wasn't he? So he's not going to intervene, is he?
I don't know if I'm right in thinking it wasn't necessarily about the boot in the face. It was the after boot that went into his leg as well. Because as they went down, I think that one of his he had a flailing leg that went into his leg as a secondary challenge, and I think that's the one that the commentators talked about as maybe a bit of one that's a bit of a concern.
Yeah,
I don't know. I could be wrong.
I mean, obviously, when you got free kicks and that, Liverpool were playing a high line. Now it's just a shame we didn't have somebody who could have just thought, right, hang on, I'll just wait till that ball's kicked and then run onto it, because that's playing a huge risk when you play that high line. Obviously, Liverpool were taking that risk, probably thinking we don't have anybody quick enough to get on the ball. But, I mean, Almiron scored and it was offside, and it was offside, clear as anything. But even when Wood had that chance, even if it was offside, even if it was just marginally offside, he should have at least found the back of the net with that. Any striker would have put that away. If that had been Callum Wilson, that would have been the back of the net.
Yeah, I thought that myself, actually, Tony. I did think I was a bit disappointed with Wood's finish. And similarly, I was maybe again I was being harsh, but I was really frustrated. When Miggy did that run, because he just it was so easy for Joe Gomez. He just stepped up, and I thought Miggy should be aware of the line. He should be looking, and he was a good yard and a half, 2 yards off. And he's got the pace. He doesn't need to go that early. And I just thought if he had the awareness to just look, track back, Archer's run and come back on himself and go, he'd have been in. So yeah, that was frustrating.
Yeah, I agree with that, Chris. I mean, the thing is as well, I mean, like I say, we only lost 1-0, so no disgrace really. I mean, I was thinking I would take a point all day. I said to you last week, I'll take a point all day, and even if we did snatch a win, I would, be even happier with that. But I'm proud that we did so well on Saturday. I mean, Dan Burn was exceptional, centre half. Shaw went off. I hope that's not a serious injury, and I hope he's fit for Man City, because God help us if Lascelles is playing against Man City. They will walk all over us then. So I'm hoping and praying that Shaw's back for the weekend. But that's another game that's going to be tough at the weekend, Man City. So see where we go on that game. But all in all, I think we just want the season over now. We're safe, basically safe now anyway. Yeah. Some people say we can be caught, but when you've got the likes of Everton playing Palace, there's no way we're going to get caught.
No chance.
Not a chance.
I said this the other day, Tony. I actually think, I know mathematically, if you look at the league table, it will show that we can be caught. But if I had to far more time on my hands, which I don't, I would love to actually see whether it is mathematically impossible, because there's that many teams below us, and they're all playing against each other. I'm not sure there's a possibility that we could be dragged into it anyway. But listen, there's no way we're going down. Not on 43 points. There's just no way.
A chance.
The one thing I'll add to that is that if we're of a danger of being caught because we're not mathematically safe, then what about Southampton? What about Villa? You know what I mean? you go through all of those teams. You got a couple of others as well that have got less points than us. Leicester got a couple of games in hand, but they're on less points than us. You know what I mean? So you can go through the other teams and say, well, okay, they're not safe either. And then what you're doing, you're widening the pool of teams to the point where really we are mathematically safe, because those teams have got to pick up points, as do we.
Exactly.
Look, I'm convinced. I'll say it now. I'm convinced that we've got a great chance of getting 3 points against Arsenal on our last home game of the season.
Yeah.
I'm convinced, like Chris has just said, that we can get 3 points at Turf Moor.
Yeah.
I think we will still pick up points between now and the end of the season. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. We will pick up points between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it and I think, well, I mean, on Saturday I watched the Burnley game after we played Liverpool. And first half, Burnley weren't that great. But second half, whatever he said to them at half time, they came out. And then them 2 goals late on in the game, as soon as the commentator got 80 minutes and he said, Watford's got to have it in the last 10 minutes of conceding goals, late goals.
Yeah.
And then it was 2 and 3 minutes, you know. But Burnley look a totally different outfit. And
I thought it was very interesting, Tony. I don't know if you noticed this yourself. Did you notice in the sun at the Watford Stadium how the assistant manager was stood up barking instructions and Roy Hodgson was just slumped in his seat? I thought Roy Hodgson knows. He knows.
Yeah, because the assistant Ray Luton went back to him when they scored and gave him the high five, and Hodgson just sort of sat there and smiled, and I thought, that's a manager who knows he's going down.
Yeah.
I mean, they can mathematically get out of it, but they can't, because technically all it takes is Burnley to get a point, Leeds to get a point, and that's it, they're relegated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Unless they're going out all for those, they'll have to go out now and go out for the wins and hopefully get them. But I mean,
Moussa Sissoko come out before the game apparently and said, if we want to stay up, we've got to win this match, and then they lost 2-1. It's just it's done,
I think it's going to be between Everton and Leeds, because I think Burnley will do enough to stay up. They've got Villa at the weekend. They'll beat Villa at Turf Moor because they're a different outfit now at Turf Moor. I think they can go to Villa Park and beat Villa, if I'm honest. The way Burnley are playing, the way Villa are, I mean, Villa beat a poor Norwich team. Let's not, I mean, Villa fans may be like, oh, yeah, we've beat Norwich, but But I can certainly see them beating Villa at Turf Moor and maybe causing a shock at Villa Park, who knows? I can see being Everton Leeds. And if I'm honest, yesterday, although Chelsea had a lot of possession and they did threaten, Chelsea to me don't look like a team who wanted to go and get that goal.
No.
Is it because of what's going on in the background? Because their license expires in a few weeks' time? Is that all playing on their minds and they're just thinking, do you know what? We're not bothered.
Yeah, I mean, you've already got Rudiger who's leaving, which I thought that was a really interesting timing. I thought that doesn't help the situation. Like, obviously, he's come out, hasn't he, and said he's leaving. I don't know if it's confirmed if he's going to Real Madrid, but I think most people accept that he is going to Real Madrid. But even Thomas Tuchel come out, didn't he, and said, yeah, he's definitely going at the end of the season. And I just thought, the timing of that's not great. Like, I would shut all that down and just say, listen, let's not talk about next season until, the end of this season. Let's get our games out the way. Let's sort ourselves out. Make sure that we're top 4, and we'll worry about that at the end of the season. I just thought the timing was really odd.
You know why? Why? I knew exactly why that came out. Exactly why that came out when it did. And the reason why it came out when it did is because that was Thomas Tuchel saying to the media or to whoever's involved in this takeover, the government, hurry it up. Because we're losing players to other clubs because this takeover hasn't been confirmed. And the one thing that I read about that is that, and I'm not sure if Thomas Tuchel said this or whether it was from one of the journalists, and that Tony Rudiger mentioned that he couldn't wait any longer for Chelsea's future to be secured before signing the deal at Chelsea. Now, for me, Rudiger was going anyway. Rudiger was always going to go, and he's been linked with Real Madrid since back in December, as it being a nailed-on move. So I'm convinced that he's going to go to Real Madrid. Now, he'd be a perfect centre-back replacement, or not replacement, but addition for Real Madrid. It'd be a great sign, fantastic centre-back. But that was the message to Chelsea, the owner, not the owners, but the people at the top, the government, to say, hurry up, because we need to sign players. Now, Thomas Tuchel has got a decision to make in the summer, because if this takeover is not done by the end of May, normally big teams and teams that are progressive have already got their targets nailed down. Who in their right mind is going to go to Chelsea not knowing where their future lies? They could be in administration. They could be under new ownership that might not have the money to be able to sign these players. They're all over the place. You've got players there that will stay because they're under contract, but you've got Aspilicueta, for example, that leaves in the summer for free. Yes, he's an experienced player, but he'll leave. There are one or two others that maybe have only got a year left on their contract, and they're not knowing what's going to happen with this club. Chelsea probably got players that they want to get rid of, but they won't be able to because nobody knows where they stand. They're in such a difficult position. So that for me was Thomas Tuchel crying for help, saying,
"Yeah,
please,
that makes sense."
Sorted.
Yeah, that's probably what you're probably right on that one, Pete. I mean, the thing is though, if them players are just going through the motions and they're just doing that, they got to be careful because Spurs and Arsenal could overtake them and they could end up in the 5th Europa League spot.
Yeah,
because they're catching them up on points now. You know,
yeah, they are.
But if I've got to make it, if I had to say for the end of the season for who's going down, like I say, I think it's going to be between Leeds and Everton. And as much as I want Everton to go down, I can see it being Leeds going. As much as I want Everton to go down, I really do want them to go down, but I can see it being Leeds that goes down because they've got, I know it's a bit of a tough running they've got, but it's the home games where I can see Everton getting their points because that crowd urges them on. But like you say, though, those 2 home games aren't easy. I mean, Palace isn't easy, and Brentford won't be easy, not the way Eriksen's playing at the minute. You know, and Brentford went to Chelsea and won 4-1. Let's not forget.
Yeah. Good side on the day. Good side.
Yeah. So,
and it'll be interesting as well, Tony, because looking at the league table, which we had up earlier, it's interesting to see. You know, this could be the records for the highest points total, and a team goes down, couldn't it? Realistically,
yeah.
Because we could see a team with 37 go down. Could happen. 38 even.
Yeah, because the past few seasons, anybody on 37's been safe, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right. I think you need more than 37 this time around. Certainly feels that way anyway.
Yeah, I think it does, yeah. But if they fail to beat, well, I can't see them beating Leicester away, if I'm honest, because that's a hard place to go to, Leicester. And Everton's away record's atrocious anyway.
Yeah.
At Watford, if they get a point, I think that's what they're aiming for. But, you know, again, Watford might play with no fear and just think, do you know what? Players might be wanting to be in the shop window, so they might go out all out to beat Everton.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, the only games that they've got winnable is the 2 home games.
Yeah.
But that might not be enough to keep them up. Then it may be trips to Rotherham for Everton next season, rather than trips to like Liverpool or Man United.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reality it is, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. Huge difference.
But going back to us anyway now after the relegation, sort of looking at it. But players in the summer, I definitely agree we need quite a few come through the door. And I do agree with, even if we brought Tarkowski and he didn't play week in, week out, but he's a good backup to have on the bench.
Yeah, he improves the squad.
Yeah, and that's where we can get rid of Lascelles as well. But we definitely need a keeper to back up Dubravka because Darlow needs to go. Woodman needs to go. Woodman's not even playing for Bournemouth, to be honest with you, so I don't even know why he went on loan there.
No.
And Gillespie doesn't get a look in, so we may as well let them 3 go. And I agree with you, Pete, bring Dan Langley through.
Yeah.
You know, he played in a few pre-season games, why not?
Yeah.
Definitely,
put him on the bench, and, you know, Liverpool done the same with Kelleher, didn't they?
Yeah, he did.
We're in a situation where we need to box smart. You know, we've already talked about tonight the 6 players potentially that we might sign in the summer or around that number. We need to box very smart, and the reason being is because you know, we're in a position where we still need to have 4 homegrown players. We still need to have 8 players that have played in England over a period of seasons, not necessarily at Newcastle United. So, you know, the British-based players, I think we've got more than enough. To hit that quota. I think we've got way more than to hit that quota. So I think we're okay from that point of view. But it's the homegrown is the key. You know, we still need those homegrown players. So if we're going to get rid of or loan out Matty Longstaff again, it's not going to be part of the 25. This is why I think, and there was a question that we'll come back to in a second. This is why I think there's such an emphasis on keeping Sean Longstaff. Not because he's got a massive long-term future at Newcastle, not because he's going to play regularly every week for Newcastle next season. It's because he hits a homegrown quota. Now, if we go back to Man City, this is why Man City paid over the odds for Jolie Lescott. This is why Man City paid over the odds for James Milner, Gareth Barry, a number of other players.
John Stones, Fabian Delph.
John Stones, Jack Rodwell, all of these players. And this is not because they're homegrown. This is because they were English-based players. And because Man City were buying so many foreign players, they had to have at least 8 in the squad to make up the numbers. So they had to go out there. I think they had Scott Carson on their books, and I think they still do. But they've had him on their books for years off the back of keeping him in the squad because he's an English-based player. So we need to box smart with that. Now, the English-based players we're good with, but the homegrown for us is a problem where we need to make sure that that's right. We had the young lad, is it Debole, the left back, that's been playing in the squad recently. For me, as a young player coming through, that's exactly why he's in the squad. For that reason, is because if we get rid of Paul Dummett in the summer and he goes on a free, which we might, you've got another young player that hits that quota that can play that position that will come in.
Yeah,
Cal Watts, could see Cal Watts stand up next season, couldn't we?
Yeah,
potentially. I think he got promoted with Wigan, if I'm right in thinking. As early as last weekend, just gone. This weekend, just gone. So, will he come back into the fold as a 5th choice centre back? Maybe, or will we loan him out again to continue his development? Howe will probably want to look at him in pre-season and maybe think, right, is he something that we can work with? A great shout, Chris. But this is what we're looking at right now. This is what Eddie Howe's going to have to try and piece together over the summer to make things work. So this is why I think there won't be just massive wholesale changes. There'll be players that are not part of the 25 or not have a future that we'll get rid of, but we'll get replacements to come in and replace them.
Yeah.
But we won't be wholesale changes. There'll be a period of, not even including January just gone, but maybe 3 windows in which all the players that they want out will eventually leave. So this summer, January 2023, summer 2023, you'll see a complete revamp of the squad. And I guarantee that by next summer 2023, we'll have a team that's unrecognisable to the team that we've got right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, am I right in thinking, is it Gabriel Jesus is out of contract at the end of this season? Is that right? I've seen.
I don't think he's out of contract.
Is he not?
I think he might have a year left on his contract. But
would you sign him in the summer?
Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah, because I would.
I would have him because he's significantly better than what we've got as an option up top at the moment. The only kind of question mark about him is he a frontline striker? But I would say yes, he is. Now, he does play a lot for Man City off the right, but I actually think he would do well as a mainline striker in our system. He presses. He works hard off the board. He's got fantastic technique, underrated technique, and he's a born finisher. This is why Man City signed him. I think he'd be a really good striker. And actually, I could see in my mind when I look at Gabriel Jesus and could he play for Newcastle as a main striker, I could just see him making little bended runs like you said, Chris, about Miggy not making that like bended run into position. I could really see Gabriel Jesus making those runs on the back of a Bruno Guimaraes pass.
Yeah. And
that Brazilian connection like coming together. I could really sort of see that start to happen and create those moments. Yeah. I don't know what you think, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, he is a quality player, no doubt about it. And I would certainly have him. Not a problem at all. If they said, "Oh, we can sign Jesus in the summer," then yeah, definitely, why not? I mean, if you remember when Graham Carr was here, we were getting a lot of players from France. Now we seem to be attracting a lot of players from Brazil. I mean, if we get Paqueta as well, that would be a heck of a signing as well.
Yeah.
If he comes into the team, Paqueta, linking up with his mate Bruno. But yeah, I mean, like I say, we definitely need to need at least 2 centre-offs. And hopefully one of them is going to be Sven Botman, because he's actually said he'll be leaving Lille at the end of the season, but he's not said where he's going. So that says to me that AC Milan aren't as far ahead as they think they are. And one of that story I saw over the weekend, whether it's just clickbait or whether it's just journalist rumours, we've offered a contract apparently to Dybala.
Yeah.
200 grand a week, apparently. Whether that's true or not, I do not know.
It would break the wage structure.
Yeah, definitely.
Paulo Dybala would be an outstanding elite signing for Newcastle United. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. But the points that Chris just made, the wage structure, where does he fit in? He's a number 10 primarily. Can play off either wing. Would I necessarily have him as a top-level striker? As a main striker at the top? Not quite sure. And it sounds weird me saying it. It just sounds weird me saying it, but as a main striker, I don't know if he'd fit the mold. But yeah, he would be a great signing. Great signing. Yeah. If we could get him, but if it fits into the tactical system, that's the key.
I mean, I definitely think we'll get better players, because other players will have seen our games maybe on TV or whatever, saw the atmosphere, saw what it's like to play at St James's Park. And a lot of these other top players may think, do you know what? That's a project. We want to go there. We want to be part of that. We want to be walking out to that. I mean, Guimaraes has already said it. Walking out in front of the St James's Park. He wants to be a legend here. And he will be a legend here.
Absolutely, mate.
And I think more and more players will see that and think, especially if we if we actually do finish in the top 10 this season, there'll be no problem attracting players to the club. And Guimaraes has already said Eddie Howe's a top coach.
Yeah.
Even he likes Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
So people saying that, some top players might say, who's Eddie Howe? They'll soon know when they walk through that door and they're doing the training. And they'll see what Eddie Howe's all about.
This is part of building Eddie Howe's profile right now.
Yeah.
It's the foreign players that he brings in, and is he able to maintain a reputation with these players? And you're absolutely right, Tony. He is obviously he's gaining a lot of respect from some of these players who are coming in, and they'll be asking that question. If you think that players don't ask that question about the manager, what's he like? Is he a good manager? Is he tactically and like aware? Does he know his stuff? Because these top elite players want tactically aware managers.
Yeah.
Is he a manager that they can get behind, and he'll be proving his worth. That is for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I wonder if when Southgate was at St James on Saturday, he was talking to Amanda. I wonder if Amanda said to Southgate, "Do not cock up his England gaffer because you're not getting Eddie Howe." I wonder if she did. Yeah,
maybe.
Southgate, make sure you win that World Cup in the next Euros.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Not getting Eddie Howe because that's what'll happen. Especially if Eddie Howe starts proving himself even more.
Yeah, totally agree, mate.
You touched on it with Gerrard earlier on, and you look how much Villa have dropped under Gerrard after that little bounce he had at the start of it. Eddie Howe's bounce took a little bit longer, but Eddie Howe has proved out the 3 managers that he's been the best manager.
Yeah.
I mean, Dean Smith went to Norwich, they're down. They've gone. And Villa, they're dropping like a bomb as well, aren't they? I mean, yeah, like I say, the one on Saturday, but that was only against Norwich. But, at the end of the day, who's top of the bill? Us. And Gerrard's below us, and so's Dean Smith. Because the only reason they sacked their managers was once we got rid of Bruce, they felt threatened straight away and thought, oh, we better act now as well. That's why they sacked their managers.
I think it's a fair point.
Yeah, agree, mate. Agree.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tony, we're going to have to move on, mate, because we've got one more guest on. We've got a few questions we've got to get through as well. But as always, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Hopefully for a point.
Speak to you next week.
Yeah, I would love a point on Sunday, but I think we will actually lose. I'll take what to lose 2-0 if that's going to be the thing. I would take a point all day if we could grab one, but I do think we lose.
Yeah, I think the same. I think 2-0.
Yeah,
and I don't like see a spirited performance.
Saying we lose, but I don't like saying we like to lose, but we've got to look at the reality of it. It's Manchester City.
Yeah,
they're playing so well at the minute.
Absolutely.
They walloped Leeds 4-0 at the weekend there. But yeah, even if we lose 2-0, at least we can still see it. Well, we've only lost 2-0. We haven't lost 5 or 6-0. If it had been Bruce, we might have lost about 6 or 7-0.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But we've got Eddie Howe now, so he's a lot different to what Bruce is and a lot better.
Yeah.
And the West Brom fans must love having Bruce there again for next season because he's already been given the transfer market. And by the way, it's in the... I saw on their Birmingham Live or something, apparently Bruce wants Sean Longstaff.
I don't reckon Sean Longstaff wants West Brom.
No, I don't think he does. No. Why would you want to go there?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe Matty.
It might be Matty, yeah.
I think Elliot Anderson will go down to the Championship maybe for a loan next season.
Yeah, I hope so. If he's not part of the squad, I want him to go to the Championship. As much as I'd like him to stay under Joey Barton at Bristol Rovers, I think it'd be good to see him tested in the Championship.
Yeah, or maybe a bottom of the half Premier League team, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe a Fulham or something like that.
Mm. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah,
where you've got Marco Silva as manager.
Yeah,
Continental manager.
Yeah,
it's
a good show, that.
Yeah. Well, please, we do not want Mitrovic back. I mean, I've seen a lot of Newcastle fans. Let's sign him. Yes, he scored 43 goals in the Championship because he got 2 today in the 7-0 win. But that's his level. It's not Premier League level.
Yeah, I think we'll see that next season, won't we?
We don't want him back. He'll score probably 12 next season.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly. As long as he doesn't score against us, I don't mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what we don't want. Yeah. And then tomorrow night, you've got the big game, haven't you, in the Championship, because you got Forest and Bournemouth, and if Forest win that, they go above Bournemouth on goal difference.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight one.
So,
a tight one.
Yeah.
Look forward to it. Definitely.
Anyway, thanks, lads, anyway.
All right, Tony. Take care, mate.
Thanks. See you later.
All the best. Take care. Good points by Tony.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Always. And a big game. Forest, Bournemouth.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on that, have we?
I just think Forest are going to win. I do.
Yeah.
I think it could be their time, and I've talked about it with a few people. If Bournemouth get into the playoffs after literally romping the top 2 positions for the majority of the season, that could throw them big time. That could be a really difficult one for them to deal with.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
The Forest will be flying. Yeah. And then I think Scott Parker will be a bit disappointed only because he jumped ship from Fulham because he fancied his chances at Bournemouth, and could be that Fulham are romping it and he's backed the wrong horse, so to speak.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Have to wait and see.
Right. Time for our final guest, and it's one that I know will get a lot of good reaction in the chat because people have been asking for him. Here he is. It's Alan. How are we doing, Alan?
Hey, lads. Well, are you all in meltdown, lads, after they're getting beat 1-0?
Nah, we're fine. We're fine.
No, I'm not. I just looked at it, lads. I mean, obviously, I'm a little bit older than you, but I was talking to a couple of scouts. I was going down to the ground, and I asked them, is this the best Liverpool team you've ever had? And the 2 said yes, but they were young lads like yourselves, Pete and Chris, if I may say so. So they wouldn't have seen the Dalglish and Keegan days. Yeah. But I have to say, Liverpool's press was fantastic. What disappointed me, lads, is we didn't combat it. We knew the score before the game started. I mean, you're right, Chris, about the Amaron's runs and ASM runs. We got caught offside numerous times during the game, and it was frustrating because Liverpool, I don't know if you know this, guys, in the chat, Liverpool have caught everybody offside 140 times, and
Wow.
nobody's come close to that. The next best is Man City. So they play the high line and they catch people out. And surely the lad should have had the intelligence, obviously not, to break that. You know, the press and the high line. I would say it showed you who are good enough and who aren't good enough. I thought Shelby was poor. I thought Willock was poor. And to be honest with you, lads, I've wrote down the 8 players that I would start with next season. And I would say Bruno, Dubravna, Matty if we buy him, ASM, I know a bit controversial, Byrne, Joe Linton, Wilson and Trippier. And that leaves 3 places. Maybe if we get 4 or 5 better players in. The list of players I would like gone, whether it'll happen or not, lads, is we all know Henrik. And a point that Tony raised about Shaw being injured for Sat. What about Fernandes? Is he injured? What about Fernandes?
He's in the squad.
Why will he not be considered for the game against Man City on Sunday, lads?
Yeah. I struggle with this myself, to be honest, Tony. I mean, everyone knows my thoughts on Fernandes. I'm a big fan of his, and I know he's at the latter stages of his career. But being honest, if you offered me a space in the centre back and you said, would you rather Lascelles or Fernandes, I would pick Fernandes. I appreciate Lascelles is a better athlete. And you know, he gets about quicker, and but I just feel with Fernandes, he reads the game better. He's more of a steady Eddie for me. He's never going to be, you know, making last ditch tackles and stuff like that. But I like to think he anticipates things before they happen. And I actually think, and Pete, this kind of leads back to what you said earlier when you said you had doubts over Byrne and Lascelles. Yeah, it makes me wonder. I wonder what Byrne and Fernandes would be like. Yeah, because I think they might complement each other quite well, actually, because they are totally different centre backs.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Gale, Pete. Everybody's forgotten about Gale. I mean, surely Gale's got to go in the summer. Sure,
he's got to. Yeah, he's got
to go. Maybe it's the West Brom. Maybe it's, Steve Bruce will sign up to get relegated. I don't know, but to be honest with you, I've been, I don't know why Fernandes hasn't even picked. So again, another player I think should go. But overall, lads, obviously my main man, my target, he was, superb. I mean, the clearance in the second half was going in, and he cleared it off, basically off the line, stopped it from being 2-0. I thought the defence was good on Saturday, lads, I really do. What annoyed me with the Milner case in the second half, when he got injured wasn't that the same at Anfield when they scored? Exactly. I mean, if the ball had been out to play, lads, then I would understand the referee stopping it. But surely, God, it was exactly the same as Anfield, where they scored that time and they stopped play when the ball was in play. Not the first time with Shaw, but the second time with Milner, when the ball came up his head and he was, out, injured. But, it was really, really annoying that the play was stopped when that happened. But overall, lads, Man City, another terribly difficult game. I'm not going to worry about it too much. And I do, and I'm praying, Chris, everything go down, but I can see them staying up. I've got my prayer man out and go down. Yeah. But I'm hoping it's a Middlesbrough moment, Chris. I'm hoping it's a Middlesbrough moment. We had it where we beat Middlesbrough and I thought it was safe, and then we drew with Fulham.
There's twists and turns to come. Yeah, there's twists and turns to come.
Loads of twists and turns. And like I say, another little sideshow, lads, is, the reason why I think it's a slow build and, we've got to take it on the chin is the under-18s got beat 13-0, and this is, like I say, the neglect Ashley's left with the academy is the under-18s are bottom of the league. The under-23s are near the bottom of the league, and it's a long process of getting the academy right. Full marks, guys, for the women's event. I don't know if anybody's mentioned it. The attendance on Sunday, 22,000 was great for the women's game. I think it was amazing, absolutely amazing. So I'm looking forward to the game on Sunday, lads. See how well we do against them, against Man City, another top team. I do think I really do. I think we could do it, something against them. I really do. I said it weeks ago. And I think I've just got the feeling that we'll do something. Arsenal's another. I do agree with you, Pete. I think we could turn them over, me. And Burnley, like I say. If it's a toss between Everton going down and Burnley winning, I don't know, Pete. I might just hope that we, play the under-10s for that game, the last game of the season. But you never know. I want to win it anyway on the last day. But, as far as that's concerned, lads, that's basically all I've got to say, really. I'm not disappointed. The scoreline, flattered where they didn't have their big hitters on. It was a great occasion, and I'm just looking forward to next season. Really am. I'm looking forward to the new signings, and hopefully there'll be 4 or 5 new good signings to bring on for next season. But I'll let you go, lads. I know it's a long night, and you just want to answer the questions. I know too many, everybody drags on, and so do I. But
no, you don't. Don't ever think that, Alan. We love the guests that come on, the regulars. When we get one or two that have not on a regular basis, this is why we do the show. We want to hear your opinions. I love it. I think you've raised a number of good points, and it's always difficult being one of the last guests on because a lot of the guests have already raised some of the points, but you've already raised a number of points about the build up to the goal, about Milner and a number of other points that are actually quite relevant and points that we've not yet discussed. So it's absolutely spot on. So please do not worry at all. We love to hear from you all.
No problem, Pete. I mean, like you say, I'll grab it on all night, Pete. But like I say, a lot of the points have already been raised. Like I say,
we'll have to get you on early next week, Alan. We'll get you on early next week, mate.
It was me, Chris, when we run. I missed the early part of the show, so I was doing my run to keep fit. And
good
came in late.
Good man.
But we have been linked with Mason Mount, lads. I tell you one thing, if we've got Mason Mount, with the Chelsea situation when we remarked about that, and we're linked with Mason Mount, I mean, loads of clubs I would link with him, so I dare say he'll be out of reach, but you never know. You never know these days. Everything's possible. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
But I still wouldn't have Richarlison, Pete. No, I'm sorry. ASM needs... What the problem in my eyes is with ASM, is he needs to be surrounded with better players. And the press, Liverpool's press was so good, lads, on Saturday, sorry. That's how they are, the team they are. And very few teams work it out, suss it out. And that's why they're top of the tree. And they're the 2 best teams. And for consistency, lads, these, like I said last week, these are the 2 best teams I've ever seen for winning games constantly, one after another. They are the best teams I've ever seen. Really are.
Yeah. Agree, mate. Agree.
So basically, Chris, Pete, I'll let you go. I know you want to answer the questions, and take care. And hopefully we'll have better news on next Monday. Fingers crossed, lads.
Fingers crossed, mate. That's all we can do.
At least it wasn't a cricket score. That's
exactly. Yeah, you're quite right.
That's the thing. I mean, they're a great side. I hope everybody in the chat doesn't have meltdown about it, But definitely showed to me different players like Shelby, and I hate to say it, Willock didn't show their best on Saturday, lads. And we need better players. Simple as.
Yeah.
Take care, lads.
All the best,
Alan. As always, Alan.
Keep smiling, Pete.
Always.
Don't be too down, man. When we got beat 1-0.
Never.
Pray well to go down, Chris. Sorry for your loss.
No.
I'm with you, Alan. I'm with you. Take care, mate.
Take care, Alan. See you later, mate. Funny that.
Oh, I love it. Alan's spot on, as always. And I just wanted to say, he made a really good point, and I couldn't help but thinking the same. And actually, some of the players on the pitch were mouthing that. I can't remember who was talking to Jordan Henderson at the time, was saying it. Was basically saying, well, this happened at your ground, and why didn't they stop the game here? Why is it being stopped now?
Yeah. Who was it who said it?
Someone said it was. Someone was saying it to Jordan Henderson.
And he was going, "What?" You could see him going, "Well, what,
Yeah.
and what?" And it was like,
Yeah.
"No, but the same thing happened." Yeah, who was it? Was it Joe Linton?
I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. I don't know who was saying it, but like I can't remember. I'll have to watch it back. But
Yeah, we'd have to watch it back. But he did,
was mouthing it to Jordan Henderson.
You knew
what
he was saying
but
as well.
He knew. Jordan Henderson knew what he was saying, but he was kind of like playing it down. It was like the same thing happened, but yet the game didn't stop. And I think that's probably one of the most, like, maybe if any of it was frustrating, it's probably that, is that they won from a goal that was scored when our centre back was lying on the floor, who eventually then got taken off with that actual injury. Because he couldn't physically carry on. Now, was it a foul? No, it wasn't. But you know, I think that's the frustrating thing about it, is that we lost the game that way. Because, as Eddie Howe said, if Shaw was there for when Keita comes into the box, they don't score.
He wouldn't have danced through like he did.
Yeah. But yet we have an opportunity, kind of when the ball breaks back again, to score when that free kick's taken, and he puts his head in the way, which is bravery on his part. But he wasn't badly injured. It was kind of, we talk about how we've been quite shithousery in the way in which we manage games later on in the game, whether we take a yellow card for the team or whether we kind of create a moment where we go down. Kraft does it quite a lot, gets treatment for injuries every so often just to break the play up. And we kind of had that done against us, and I think that's why we were frustrated, I think, a little bit from that on Saturday. But look, it is what it is. It is what it is.
It is. And like you say, mate, we'll sleep easy knowing that we've had a little bit of an injustice there, and who knows, we could have got a point, couldn't we? Because like you say, you're right. When I first seen it happen, I thought, that's a foul. They'll pull it back. And then when I saw the replay, I thought, okay, it wasn't a foul. But again, they took advantage. And I'm not blaming Liverpool here, because obviously, they play to the whistle, don't they? And it's down to the authorities and the referees to take control of the game. But again, it's 30, 40 yards away from the goal line. And it had to be our bloody centre-back, didn't it? If that was Joe Linton or Willock or ASM or whoever, if that was a forward player, Shaw would have been there at the centre-back. He'd have been there, and Keita wouldn't have been dancing through the way he did. Just wouldn't have happened. We had a big gap in the middle. So, yeah, that was frustrating. But it is what it is. And we've just got to kind of get on with that now, really, haven't we? There's nothing we can do about it. But thankfully, it hasn't cost us in terms of, if we were down the bottom of the league, I'm sure we'd all feel a lot more upset and aggrieved over that. But thankfully, it doesn't matter too much on this occasion. And hopefully we can give them one back next season. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So, Pete, I'm conscious of time, mate, as I always am. And we're going to fly through some questions. I'll get to as many as we can, because we don't want to go on too long. Because we did say we try and wrap up after 2 hours. So we'll do a few of the questions. But I've got a quick question for you, and this comes from Lee. And Lee asks, if we got our takeover 18 months ago, where do you think we would be now, and who do you think would be our manager? So this, I'm assuming, is when the interest was first in place. And let's say the takeover happened a lot quicker than what it did, and we didn't have that year-long delay. Who do you think would be manager, and do you think we'd have finished the season how we have?
This season, I think, being 18 months into our takeover, we certainly would have been worried about relegation at any point. I think we would have been a lot more comfortable. I think there'd have been a number of players that would have been in this team. There'd have been a number of players moved out. I think at this point now we would have been at the end of the process in which a lot of the deadwood players that we want moved out of the squad would have gone. And I'm talking, players like maybe Jacob Murphy wouldn't have got a new contract. Dwight Gale would have been gone. Richie would have been gone. I think a number of these players would have already been moved on by now if we'd have had the takeover when we had. And I think that we probably would have been in a position where we are, maybe where West Ham are right now. That's just my opinion. But the way that this last 18 months have gone about, if we'd have been able to really kind of strengthen with financial muscle, I think would have been in a position to really go in and, you know, put pressure on the teams fighting for Europe. That's just my opinion.
And do you think we'd have Rafa Benitez?
Yes, I think I think. Well, do I think we could have had Rafa Benitez? Yes, we could have. But remember, at that point, he was still in a job in China, and there weren't any concerns at that point. If we'd have had the takeover when we were supposed to have it, when the lockdown hit, so May 2020, there was more talk about Pochettino coming in than Rafa Benitez.
Yeah,
So
of course, he was out of a job, wasn't he?
And he was out of work. So I think there would have been a genuine interest in him coming to the club, and maybe he would have been the manager at that point in time.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That
we would have been, you know, we would have been in a far better situation financially, and the reason being is because obviously during that COVID period, if it had gone through, we would have had money that a lot of other teams didn't have, and we would have been able to sign players that financially other clubs wouldn't have been able to sign. So that's where I think we probably could have cornered the market that way. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, mate. We've got a question here from Derek Sharp, and Derek asks, question guys, could the relegated teams take Everton and the Premier League to court for not allowing FFP rules?
They could, but they could, and they would maybe talk about it, but I don't think they would, because I don't think there would be. I think the fact that the Premier League have kind of washed that under the carpet says that they've got maybe some form of legal agreement to kind of combat that if any of the relegated clubs complain. That's just my opinion. I don't know the legal sides of things, but I think that's probably what they would try and do.
Yeah, I agree. I think they could, but yeah, I don't think anything will come of it, and I'm sure there'll be something there to protect them, to ensure that doesn't happen. David Cook says, I know we've touched on this very briefly, papers are saying that Howe is after Mount, and I'll add this on. Mitch said last week on Loaded that they could be in administration by the end of May, and he's referring to Chelsea here. Do they have the finance to pay the wages for May? Mount contract may not be able to be renewed. So a lot of talk on Mason Mount over the past couple of days, and I tell you what, I wouldn't mind a bit of Mason Mount. I've got to be honest.
Well, that's what Chelsea are worried about. Chelsea worried because they want to give him a new contract, but they don't know what the financial situation is to be able to give him a new contract. Now, do I think he'll come to Newcastle United? No, I don't. I think he'll do whatever he can to stay at Chelsea because he's a Chelsea boy. He's not going to leave that club easily. And if he leaves that club, he's going to go to a club that are either equal to them or better. At this current moment in time. So no, I don't think Mason Mount will come to the Newcastle United, although he would be a very, very good signing. Because he's a talented player that's actually grew on me because, you know, a couple of years ago, I didn't really see what the hype was about. But having watched him a lot closely over the last couple of years, you can see his quality. And actually, he was the best player on the park for long periods of the game yesterday. His control, his touch, his ability to open up the play was very, very good. But yeah, interestingly, Mitch said a while back that, you know, Chelsea will be looking to get be lucky not to be in administration by the end of April, and you know they've found an agreement where the wages are paid effectively for another month. But I don't think Chelsea will go into administration. I think they'll try and force through some form of deal, but whether it's the right deal or not will be another thing, and I don't think it will be personally.
Yeah. Derek Sharp also asks, do you think we go for Conor Cody?
I think that moment's passed. I don't think we go for Conor Cody now. He would have been a good main, he would have been a good main target to kind of ruffle up the defensive feathers and bring someone in that's got that experience and quality in the Premier League to see us through a relegation battle. But I think because Wolves have had such a good season, it wouldn't have made sense for him to leave anyway. So I think we'll be looking at other players after this point now, beyond Connor Cody. That's just my opinion. I don't know what you think, Chris.
Yeah, no, I'm the same as you, Pete. I mean, I've got to be honest. I'm not saying Connor Cody isn't a good centre back, and I'm not saying he wouldn't improve our team because I think he would. But I wonder whether the owners would certainly. I mean, we've spoken about it before about bringing in players who've got potential and make them world class or make them top draw. And I do worry with Connor Cody because I look at his age and I also look at the fact, like you said, he's currently in a good Wolves side at the moment. He's captain of the club. Everything's going well for him. And I think he cost a lot of money to prize away from Wolves. And I'm not sure if there isn't better value for what you're paying for an English centre back or an English player, if you like. I think you're talking upwards of 30 million for him. And I think that there's players abroad who are cheaper, probably have more potential, and probably who could be better than him. So I'd probably be casting the net a bit further myself. But that's not to say I don't rate him, because I do think he's a good centre back.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We have one from Mark Todd. Bruno came to the club because of their dreams of winning the Champions League. If the club doesn't sign top class players and meet his expectations in the summer, what's the possibility of Bruno leaving?
Great question. Great question. But yeah, I think, look, him and his agent will be watching that situation closely. Will he be thinking about it too much now? No, because I think he's really enjoying being part of Newcastle United. I think the fans and the club and English football in general have really welcomed him in. So I think he's quite settled at the moment. But I think, you know, I think Bruno Guimaraes will at least be here for the next couple of seasons, because he'll want to see progression. But if he doesn't see progression, in the next 2 years, I think that's when he will start to ask questions. Yeah. Because at 26 years old, in 2 years' time, he'll be wanting to play Champions League football if he's not playing for Newcastle United.
Yeah.
So obviously they've promised him and sold him the vision of his playing Champions League football in a certain amount of periods of time. I think, you know, if he keeps playing the way he is right now, they will ask that question. There's no doubt about it. But let's not think about that right now. I think we'll have at least another 2 years to see this progression in place. Once we get European football of any sort, I think we'll be sorted, because I think we'll then be able to attract a higher level of player, because we offer European football, even if it's Europa Conference. Once we get European football of some level, shape or form, whether it's through a cup, whether it's through our position in the league, I do think that we will maintain that moving forward, and then that gives us the next phase in our progression. Just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment, mate. I know we touched on this earlier, but Trulls mentioned, what do you guys think of Longstaff getting a 4-year contract offer? I'm baffled.
Well, I'm not baffled, and I gave the reasons why earlier. Is that we have a quota that we need to fill of four homegrown players, and that is four players that between sort of the ages of 18 or 17 and 21 that have played at the club for 3 years or more, and we need those 4 players to be able to maximise our 25-man squad. Now, at the moment, I think we've got Longstaff, Dummett. I think we had Matty at one point, but obviously he's gone on loan. I can't think of the other two. Who were the other two that are in there? The homegrown quota players.
Who did you mention? Sorry, Pete.
So we've got Longstaff. We've got
Elliot Anderson.
Oh yeah, so Elliot Anderson's one, but he's on loan, so he's not part of the 25-man squad.
Oh, that's part of the squad now.
Yeah, so I think it might even be
Dummett.
That was it. So we've got Longstaff and Dummett, and then
Sean Longstaff.
Longstaff, Dummett. I can't even think who the other two would be that would hit that quota actually.
Longstaff, Dummett. Jamal Lewis, maybe?
No, because he's not played for the club. You have to play for the club.
How many times do you have to play for the club? There's a certain limit.
No, it doesn't matter what level. You just have to have played for the club for between the ages of, I think it's 17 and 21. You have to have played for the club for 3 years in order to qualify as a homegrown talent. But you might get away with it if you have put young players in the team. So if Debola's in the team, he might count as one, as a homegrown player.
Joe White,
Langley
maybe.
was one. Joe White, although I think Joe White's on loan. But the players that were there and part of the squad now, they would be the ones. So I'm not sure who the other two are, but there are two in there in which, at that point, would need to make up the four. So I think Dybala next season would be one. I think Dan Langley would be another if they're not already in there. Sean Longstaff would be the third, and then it'll be who fits the fourth in that mould. And you need to get that four in there. So, John is put English teams aren't even English now. It's a joke, and and Yana just put, you don't have to play for the club. You just need to play for an English club. Well, no, the homegrown ones that you have to play for the academy. You've got British-based players. You've got 8 that need to be in the squad that have played in this country at some point. But there are others, the other 4 that have to be that you've played within the club and you've come through the academy, which is why it's homegrown. Okay, so there's 2 that you have to fit that quota for. So you've got Longstaff, Longstaff done it, Longstaff done it. Yeah, that would be ideal. But yeah, I'm not sure who the other 2 are. It'd be interesting to find out who the other 2 are in that squad. I'd have to pick up the other. I have to pick up the squad list and go through it. Murphy wouldn't have been because he was he didn't come through the youth ranks. Darlow wouldn't because even though he was a young lad, he didn't spend 3 years here. The same with Lascelles. Lascelles, I think, was already over the remit, or Darlow was already over the age limit. I think Darlow was 24 when he came to the club. So he was already over it. Lascelles was a little bit younger, but I think didn't hit that quota. It's worth looking into. But we need 4, and then we need 8 that are British-based players. So that's something that we need to think about, and that's why we're in a position where we need to manage this squad delicately, and that's why all of a sudden Sean Longstaff becomes crucial for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so Andrew Richardson, this isn't really a question, it's more a comment. Andrew Richardson's asking how your brother is, Pete, and saying you'll be getting him on again soon. Andrew really likes his views on the French league.
Yeah, Lee will be coming back at some point for Loaded. There's no doubt about it. In the summer, I was with him today, actually. He's took up a couple of really good positions within the journalism world. In the last month or so, so he's doing really well with the positions that he's taken up. I'm sure he might touch on that when he comes back on the shows, and mixing with a lot of known journalists that we're aware of from a Newcastle point of view, and working alongside them quite closely. So, yeah, onwards and upwards for him, doing really well. But he'll be back on for the Fully Loaded Transfer Show, I imagine, at some point, and especially when we're linked to or have signed some French-based players.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. We've got a couple of quick fire ones here. I'll answer the first one, Pete, and then I'll throw the second one to you. So Tom Dixon asks, would you take Fernandinho from City? Tom, I would take Fernandinho from City, but I think it is well notified that he's going back to Brazil. And I think, to be fair, he's at the very end of his career. So I think Fernandinho is off to Brazil. And it was interesting, that press conference, wasn't it, Pete, when Guardiola didn't even know. And then someone threw it at him and said, oh, by the way, he's leaving. He's confirmed it. So I don't think Guardiola was very happy about that. Leon asks, Pete, what are your thoughts on Nketiah?
Nketiah, not a striker that I would sign as the main one in terms of a main striker, but he is a striker that you would have. So, for example, if we were to move on Gale and Wood, or Gale and Wilson, for example, and we were to bring in 2 strikers, I would then bring in Nketiah as one, potentially, because he's going on a free, and then go out and sign another striker. That's kind of what I would do. But if Nketiah was our sole striker that we signed as the main striker to take us forward next season, for me, I think Wilson's better. So that, for me, although it bulks up the squad, it doesn't show progression. And I want to see progression in the signings that we make this summer. That's just my opinion. I want to see progression. I want to see us go out and the signings that we make are first choice signings in the 11, not just squad backups. So if we go out there and sign for example, keep using it, a Nunes or a Botman or a Henderson, for example, all three of those become first choice in their position, in my opinion. And then you've got other players as well that you might bring in who have been linked. If you bring them in, they need to be first choice. I don't know what you think about that, Chris.
Yeah, no, I agree. You can't bring in two top class strikers unless, of course, you're going to play with two top class strikers. You need to change your formation and have two up front because you can't have a top striker playing in your 11, the understudy top striker on the bench, and then Callum Wilson as third choice striker. It just won't work. And it kind of goes back to what you said earlier about you think Wilson or Woods will go if we do bring in two top strikers. But it will be interesting to see if we play with two up front next season. Eddie Howe's already kind of hinted that he might be looking to change formation. He might be looking to change the way we play, whether that's the way we actually play or our press or whatever, or whether we play a high line because we bring in new players, who knows, or it could be a change of formation. But I suppose we'll just have to wait and see on that. Again, not really a question, but great stats as always from Keith. What are your thoughts on Mitrovic breaking the all-time scoring league record for the second tier? 43 goals in 45 games, 88 games. He must mean 88 goals in 104 games for Fulham. How do you think he'll do in the Premier League? So for me, Keith, I always think Mitro's been a bit harshly done by in the Premier League. Like, I do think he can do it. I mean, Tony said earlier, he'll only score 12 goals next season. I think Fulham will be very happy with that. If he gets 12 goals next season, I think they'll be very happy with that. If he gets given a full run in the Premier League next season, I think he'll do okay. I think he'll do similar, if not better than Ivan Toney, if I'm honest. I do think he is underrated. And the problem with Mitro has always been his temperament. And if he sorted that out, I haven't watched much Championship football this season, but if he sorted that out and he keeps his head focused on the game, who knows what he can do? But he's not someone I think we should be going for. I think it's been and gone. And I think we'll be looking for a higher quality of striker, if I'm honest. But what are your thoughts on that, Pete?
Mitrovic, I don't think you'll see too much difference from Mitrovic than what you've seen in other Premier League seasons gone by. Unfortunately for him, in that Mitrovic is built for the Championship. It is a far lesser quality league than it has been previously, and in my opinion, you don't get those sort of chances in the Premier League because the types of defenders, the types of tactical setup is very different. And on top of that, Fulham are not a team that are smashing the league. Fulham are a team that are not the best in the Premier League. So they're going to be dominated. So Fulham like to have a lot of possession. They dominate possession. They create a shed load of chances. In the Premier League, you don't. So he has to try and score goals on less amount of chances. And that's something that Mitrovic doesn't do on a regular basis, in my opinion. He needs a number of chances to score. Sometimes in some games, you don't get that. So for me, I don't think you're going to see Mitrovic score 15, 20 goals next season, because if he does that, Fulham stay up and they'll probably stay up comfortably. I don't see that happening because I don't think he'll get the time or space. I think he's easily defended in the Premier League, playing the way he does. And I'll go back to the point, people talk about Wood, but Wood's movement's better. Wood presses higher. Wood works harder off the ball to create moments, not just for himself, but the team. Mitrovic doesn't do that. Mitrovic doesn't really move within that position. So he can be, for better defenders, easily marked. He'll get chances. He'll score a few goals. No doubt about it. But if people are expecting Mitrovic to come to the Premier League, in my opinion, and start tearing it up like he has the Championship, I'm not quite sure about that.
No, he's not going to get the same numbers, is he? And
I think, if I'm right in thinking, that the lad's 28 years old. I mean, he's been in this league, or been in England for 7 years now. That's a long time to only just be starting to for people to only start talking about him now as a potential for the Premier League, even though he's played in the Premier League 3 seasons. And yet still hasn't done anything in 3 of those 7 years. Not for me. Not for me.
We've got 3 more questions, which I'll whiz through now. Interesting one from Sussy79. He says, I see reports that Chelsea may be willing to listen to offers for Lukaku. I think he'd be a great upfront for us, getting the service to him. Sussy, I agree. I think Lukaku would be fantastic for us. My only concern is, one, his attitude, and two, the price tag and the wages. I think that they're the big ones for me. We spoke about, didn't we, recently, about signing players who were kind of within our budget and who we make into world-class players. I think Lukaku's already in that top bracket, if I'm honest. And I think he will end up probably going back to Serie A. I'd be surprised if he didn't, possibly with Inter Milan, because we know how much he loves it there, because he keeps telling everybody. But it's whether or not they've got the money to pay for them. But what are your thoughts, Pete?
Yeah, Lukaku won't go anywhere other than Champions League football. He's a Champions League level striker. He just doesn't fit certain styles and tactical setups. You know, he didn't suit Man United's style or tactical setup when he was there, but still scored goals. He doesn't suit Chelsea's right now under Thomas Tuchel, and that's just the reality of it. He just doesn't suit the way in which those managers want to play. It came very much across in the early stages that Lukaku was very much an owner signing, an Abramovich signing at the time, rather than a manager signing. And they've had that in the past, where Abramovich has gone and bought Andrei Shevchenko when Mourinho was in charge, and Mourinho didn't want him because he didn't fit into his setup. But the owner wanted him, so he bought him. It was very much that. So yeah, I do see Lukaku leaving. I think this will probably be his last stint in England. I don't see him moving to another English club. I think he'll go back to Italy because, as you talked about, he loved Italy and loved playing over there. But as well as that, he gets more opportunity on the board. They build teams around their strikers better. I can see him going to any of the Milan clubs, AC or Inter. AC are in a position where they're about to kind of, as far as I'm aware, about to get some investment into their club, so they'll be a little bit more better off financially, so they might be able to afford him. So it might be in a position where they start to get that, that type of player in, and I think he'd be very happy with that person.
And possibly Botman if they get money.
Hopefully not.
We'll have to see. Yeah. Okay, penultimate question. Geordie Team for Life says, I watched Gerson and Paqueta last night. Gerson was the better in the first half, and then Paqueta in the second half. And he mentions Leon's left back being outstanding. Now, again, I don't know much about French football, I'm not going to lie, but I believe the left back for Leon is Emerson.
If it's the Emerson that I'm thinking of, if that's the case, isn't that the Emerson that's on loan from Chelsea?
Yeah, I thought it was him, and he was on loan at an Italian club last season, wasn't he? Sure, it was him.
Yeah, because Chelsea tried to. Obviously, Chelsea were in the ring. They put their hat in the ring for Luca Dean in January because they needed another left back because Chilwell was out for the season, and they actually, because they had an agreement with Leon that they couldn't allow, that Emerson had to stay with Leon, so they were willing to offer money to Leon to release Emerson back from his loan to come back to Chelsea, but Leon refused. But yeah, so it is the Emerson that is actually on loan from Chelsea, who is a good player, but he was always a squad player at Chelsea, but he's playing obviously regular at Lyon, and he's not a bad player. Obviously, I didn't watch the game that game in particular, but he is a good player. Would I sign him ahead of others? Probably not. No. I think there are other better options out there, in my opinion. But yeah, I think he is a decent player. But Lucas Paqueta, for one, is Gerson is maybe a little bit more deep lying than Paqueta. Paqueta likes to play up with the striker. Sometimes as a 2, sometimes as a 10. He can do box to box at times. He's more maybe versatile in that position. He's a good player. He's a very, very good player, and his relationship with Bruno Guimaraes is underestimated. When those two link up together for Brazil and Lyon previously, they were very good.
You know, P, I was just being distracted then because I'm watching. Well, I'm not watching it, but I've got it on the background. The Man United Brentford game, and I just noticed the fans are protesting in the 73rd minute for the Glazers out. And you know what? The amount, and this isn't me being jealous or anything, but the amount of coverage this is getting is unreal. Like they're showing like the flares, the banners. They've done it on the 73rd minute, and they're zooming in on the crowd, and they're showing people walking out. And you just think that doesn't happen at other clubs. That just doesn't. That media attention is not highlighted. And
Yeah.
Sky is zooming in on it. They're showing everyone kicking off.
They, as I say to you, Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher have massive pull at Sky Sports because of what they do. Now, if that was any other club that wasn't associated with either of those two, it wouldn't be getting as much media talk. And that's just the reality. They get an opportunity to really put their clubs under the lights. So Gary Neville with Man United, Jamie Carragher with Liverpool in particular, but more so recently Everton, because his affiliation with them have got more attention than probably most other clubs recently because of them being associated with them. Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher know very well that they have huge influence within Sky at the moment because people pay to listen to them. People pay to listen to them go at each other for the Liverpool Man United thing, but they also have massive influence on the back of they're actually good at their job. Probably two of the best pundits that are out there.
I agree.
And because of that, that brings a massive pull. So I've got no doubt that when they're going through things with Sky and the producers, that they're saying, we need this, I want that, and I want us to emphasize that, and I want us to emphasize that. And I think the producers will be playing along and will benefit them. And it benefits their clubs for getting this message out. They are two big clubs as well, which helps them from that point of view in Liverpool and Man United. But for me, I think, with a Newcastle representative in Sky Sports, and I think that should happen over the next 2 or 3 years, would emphasise that point again. I would love Alan Shearer to be part of Sky Sports for that reason.
Yeah, I would.
BBC are great, and he obviously enjoys it with Gary Lineker and Ian Wright, but it doesn't allow to have influence. Sky is the main one. Sky is the main one that gets the biggest influence. And I would love, as a Newcastle representative, we have obviously Kieran Dyer at this moment in time. We've had one or two others in the past, but for me, Alan Shearer is the one. Going forward, if Newcastle are becoming a force, that's where Shearer needs to be. He needs to be in those studios week in, week out, talking all things Newcastle, because we need that influence in there.
Yeah,
big time.
I agree, mate. I agree. But the last question of the night goes to Mad Mag Mark. And Mad Mag Mark, my daughter just started laughing when I said that. Mad Mag Mark. And that question is, should the club put a priority on filling the CDM position this summer? Someone like Amadou Haidara from RB Leipzig would be perfect, and it would allow Bruno to influence the game further up the pitch. I've got to admit, I don't know much about Amadou Haidara from Leipzig. I know we were briefly linked with him in the summer, but what are your thoughts on Amadou Haidara? And really, I suppose to ask a more blanket question, do you think a defensive midfielder will be the priority this summer?
A midfielder will be the priority, but I think it'll be a midfielder that can score goals.
I do.
Yeah, I think Bruno or Shelby can play in that position as a deep lying. And I think what they're going to look to do is within that three. So we have the kind of the deep lying centre midfielder, and then the two that play further forward. I think one of those two that play further forward will be a new signing and will be more of a goal scorer than the others that are in there.
I think it replaces Willock. I do. I really, really do. Yeah. I think I could literally see Bruno sitting and Joe on the left and Paqueta or someone else on the right in that three. And I think Willock will come off the bench.
It'll be a free-for-all. It'll be the new signing, Joe Linton, Willock and Longstaff. They'll be the four, I think, of those two positions that will fight it out. And then it might be the case of Bruno and Shelby. Or it might be that Shelby plays, Bruno goes further forward, or Shelby comes out, Bruno plays, and they alternative. But I think it'll be an alternative position of 6 players. 6 midfield players covering 3 midfield spots, centre midfield spots. I think is the perfect balance for this Newcastle United team going into next season. That's like I say, that's just That's just my opinion. But Haidara, I've seen little bits of him. He's a talented boy. The problem is, again, it goes back to the point, he'll be commanding a huge fee. And if you're going to pay a big fee for a centre midfielder, you maybe, particularly with what we need, you're going to want to pay a little bit of money that's going to get goals and assists from further up the pitch, because as we've alluded to tonight, we need more in attacking areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to say really quickly that further up in the chat, when we talked about the 4 homegrown players, I have looked at it myself, and both Yano and someone else in the chat that looked at it as well, it is correct. So it has changed. So it's gone away from the 4 homegrown players, which was the quota before. It is now 8 in general, and I think that's coming in from next season, if I'm right in thinking. I think that's what it's changed to now, so you don't have to. You see, it's actually an English and Welsh club, and I think someone else later on in the chat alludes to that. That is an English and Welsh club that you can play for.
Right.
Yes, Eric Sharp puts it here. Just read the rules. Players must be affiliated with an English or Welsh club before his 18th birthday. So yeah, you have to have played for 3 years for any of those clubs. So normally, I think the rule before was that you had to have played for that particular club for 3 years to be classed as a homegrown player. But now I think it's just in general, you have to have played for a club within that period. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the rules have changed slightly. So yeah, fair play for spotting that out. It's something I wasn't aware of, but yeah, it has changed, which actually gives us a little bit more scope to play around with the 25-man squad. So actually, that could work out a little bit better for us, in my opinion.
Yeah, interesting what Yano puts there as well, saying that 8 from 25, they want to move it to 12 from 25, which that would be quite a big demand. That
it would be, but I think what it does, it means there'd have to be a shift, because it would mean that more players from this country, English, British-based players, would be being signed in order to keep them within that. But equally, you've got to take off the English tax, because clubs do not want to be paying huge money for English players when they can get a foreign player, a player from outside of England or Britain, for a lot cheaper price. There's got to be an understanding there. There's got to be a change in the mindset in order for that process to work. So yeah, I get it, and I think it would be great for the game, for our game in this country. But you've got to make it viable for the clubs, particularly at the top end of the table. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to wrap it up there, Pete, because I've just seen this comment from Life Goals, and yeah, that's it for me now. Life Goals says, "Target is a target, but Haidara will leave us high and dry."
Jesus Christ, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Pete, as always, thank you so much for joining. Always enjoy doing this show with you, mate, as you know. And just a big thank you to everyone in the chat as well for all your comments. We really enjoy all your comments, and this show would not be the same without you all. So big, massive thank you to you yourselves. And yeah, that's it from me. Pete, do you want to say a few words before we click off?
I think Rachel's put it out spot on.
I'm off for a lie down.
I'm off for a lie down. Well, I say lie down. I'm off to finish off my work, my piles of marking that I've got to get through tonight. So yeah, it doesn't stop for me, but always like to have a little bit of break on a Monday with yourself, Chris, and everyone in the chat. Absolute legends, all of you. Cheers to the mods in the chat. Keep an eye on one or two things. I know Julie was on earlier and dropped me a message to say that there was one or two messing around in the chat. I've had to put them on 5-minute blocks because I wasn't able to block them straight off because for whatever reason it wasn't allowing me on my laptop. But thanks everyone looking out for us, and look, chins up, as Jose Mourinho used to say, chin up. We go again on Sunday, and remember, these games do not define who Newcastle United are this season. So stay positive. Let's just enjoy the games, see what the boys produce, because we're only going one way, and it's that way.
Absolutely. Very well said. Good night, everyone.
Take care.